Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Hiruzen makes Naruto Hokage Chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by KENKON15 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Prologue. The third's fourth pupil. Prologue abandoned. Naruto, what's chakra made of? Haruka asked the boy. Naruto Uzumaki had been distracted for most of the class, gazing affectionately at Sakura Haruno, lost in daydreams about his crush. Many students chuckled and turned to face their classmate, who seemed to snap back to reality. What? How am I supposed to know that, Haruka-sensei? I talked about it just 5 minutes ago. Nearly everyone burst into laughter at the dead last, who blushed faintly, frowned and did his best to ignore them. The only ones who hadn't made fun of Naruto had been Sasuke Uchiha, who was too busy being cold and emotionless, Shino Aburam, who no one had ever seen laugh, Shikamaru Nara, who was now awakening from his sleep and asking Choji Akimichi what was going on, and Hinata Hyuga, who had a slight blush on her face and looked at the blonde with concern. Sakura-chan. Sakura-chan. Naruto yelled, running towards Sakura with a huge grin on his face. What now, you baka? The pink-haired girl asked, although she had a very good idea of what he wanted. I was just thinking you want to come and have lunch with me? He said, hopeful. Sakura only sighed at that. So I can get your food all over me while watching you pig out on it. No thanks. Ignoring the boy's sad and hurt look, she arrogantly turned her back on him and ran off to join Ino Yamanaka and a bunch of other girls from their class who were circled around Sasuke, much to his discomfort, fighting for the right to feed him. That day, Naruto had lunch alone, again, on his favorite swing, while Hinata spied on him from behind a tree. She had never minded watching him have lunch. Very good. Another bullseye. Haruka said, writing the results on a piece of paper after Sasuke had thrown his last kunai. That makes a perfect score again. Congratulations. HN. The Uchiha mumbled, fans already gathering around him. Your turn, Naruto. The teacher instructed. Alright. Watch this, Sakura-chan. He yelled as he stepped in front of the target, kunai at the ready. His first throw was a total miss, as well as the second and the third, and most of the students laughed at him again. Angry, he got ready for a fourth one, moving his arm behind his head and launching the ninja knife with as much strength as he could. Which turned out to be a tad too much. He lost his balance and let go of the weapon early. It flew straight towards Haruka, who dodged it right in time to have the sharp blade miss his right ear for a few inches. The class froze, the laughter instantly stopped. That was not good. Naruto. The very angry teacher grabbed Naruto by his collar and dragged him back to the academy building for punishment, ignoring the boy's struggles, protests and several apologies. While the rest of the children resumed their interrupted laughter, Hinata picked up the kunai Naruto had used to make sure they'd be returned to him later. Sakura-chan. Hey, Sakura-chan. The academy had closed for the day, it was already getting dark and the students headed home. Naruto rushed towards his crush, who had just turned left into a shortcut alley with Sasuke, unsuccessfully attempting to start a conversation with him. What do you want this time, Naruto? She asked, her patience wearing thin. I was wondering if you'd like me to walk you home. Sakura thought about whether she should slap him or kick him for asking her that for the 5th time that week when she noticed she'd stopped walking and was losing Sasuke. No, Naruto, I don't, now leave me alone. She graciously turned around and ran back to the Uchiha, who hadn't even noticed she'd stayed behind. A few seconds went by. Sakura-chan. Naruto repeated. I told you, I don't want you to walk me home, Naruto. Sakura-chan. It's not that the boy whispered, so quietly she could hardly figure out what he'd said. Naruto, for the last time, she was cut mid-sentence when she turned around and faced 3 masked, obviously adult shinobi, one of which, his face covered by the likeness of a lion, held a kunai to Naruto's throat. They were dressed in a mixture of ninja and civilian clothes, and although their masks were similar, they were quite obviously not Anbu operatives. Sasuke seemed to detect the 3 men's presences. His expression the exact same as when he was walking home, one of perfect disinterest and impassivity. He took out a kunai of his own from his pocket and ran at full speed to confront his opponents. This seemed to amuse them. As soon as Sasuke was close enough, the one holding a knife to Naruto's throat kicked him in the chest with immense strength, causing him to fly onto Sakura, already unconscious by the time he hit her. You idiot. Another of the men, one with an eagle mask, yelled. You were specifically told not to hurt any other child. And what do? You go and kick the Uchiha kid. We're only here for the demon brat. While Sakura got Sasuke off of her, Naruto took advantage of his assailant's distraction to break free of the man's grasp and deliver a swift kick to his most treasured area, which had him rolling on the ground screaming in pain. Why you, the eagle-masked one said, punching the blonde right in the nose before the latter could run, obtaining with much satisfaction a loud crack from the hit. Meanwhile, the third man, one with a cat mask, helped his fallen comrade up. The three adult shinobi gathered around Naruto, who was helplessly lying on the ground, and proceeded to kick him as much as they could, laughing hard as they did so, clearly enjoying themselves. Sakura-chan helped the young blonde pleaded between exclamations of pain. But the girl was unable to move a muscle. She was too afraid to. When one of the adults decided it was getting uninteresting to kick Naruto's back, he moved on to the head, hitting his temple with deadly precision, causing Sakura to go even paler than she already was, cold shivers running down her back. Somehow, Naruto managed to cling to consciousness, silently begging for her to help him with his eyes, his blood spilling all over the pavement. Then Sasuke, who had been lying against a wall, coughed, and blood ran down his chin. The girl's eyes widened in surprise and horror. "Sasuke-kun," she shouted, and without a second thought she grabbed Sasuke and carried him away, towards the hospital. Naruto was now alone. That is, if you didn't count the three thugs beating the life out of him. Suddenly, as his brain started to shut down, he heard a high-pitched scream, followed by Naruto-kun. The man above him spoke, but he could only catch bits, such as "can't hurt another kid, he's going to die anyway and run." Between blinks he was able to see a blue-haired pupilless girl running down the alley, towards him. "Hinata." He felt one of the men pick him up and hoist him over his shoulder. And then everything went black. Chapter 1 The Hokage's Proposal 2. Who was that? Naruto. Were they calling for him? Naruto. Naruto opened his eyes. He was lying on a bed in what he could only assume to be the hospital. He had seen a lot of that place in the past and had no doubt he'd see much more of it in the future. Next to him stood a very familiar person. "Aji-san." The blonde boy mumbled. "Naruto, you're finally awake, do you feel alright?" The third Hokage asked, the concern evident in his voice. "Not really, all of my body hurts," Naruto answered, touching a few sore spots on his left arm. "Ouch, don't move too much, you need to rest," Hiruzen said, ruffling the young Jinchuriki's spiky hair with a sad smile. "We need to talk, though. Naruto, do you remember anything about what happened yesterday?" "Yesterday? How long have I been asleep?" "Nearly 24 hours. The doctors were extremely surprised by this, they said you wouldn't wake up for at least 3 more days. They were very worried about you, one of them told me that you arrived here with injuries that would be lethal for an adult. I guess whoever attacked him didn't take the Kyuubi's regenerative powers into account, the Sandaime thought." Well, Naruto closed his eyes and frowned, trying to recall. "I do remember something. I was walking with Sasuke and Sakura-chan when 3 masked men surprised me and what were their masks like? Let me think, one of them had a lion mask." Naruto then paused for a few seconds. "The other ones were an eagle and a cat, I think. Kinda like the Anbu masks, but they didn't look like Anbu." Sarutobi nodded and signaled for him to go on. "Anyway, one of them held a kunai against my throat. Sasuke saw them and tried to fight them, but he got knocked out by a kick to his chest. One of them got angry because of that. He said they were only there for some demon brat." "Who's that?" The third shrugged. "But they must have thought it would be fun to mess with me, cause after I tried to break free, they started beating me up." He paused again. This was where his memories started to get hazy. "I think I remember asking Sakura-chan for help, but she carried Sasuke away and that's it." "You don't remember anything else?" the Hokage inquired. "Not really. I guess Sakura-chan must have dropped off Sasuke here and went back to get me." Naruto said, a silly, happy grin on his face. "Are they alright?" "Poor boy, he's gone through so much already." Hiruzen sighed. Sakura, Haruno and Sasuke had checked in yesterday at 2037. Sakura had no injuries whatsoever and left after a quick safety checkup. Sasuke took a nasty hit, however. Nothing broken, but the doctors had to keep him overnight. He was given leave earlier today. He informed. "They're both fine. However, what you guessed wasn't what happened." Naruto was confused. "She didn't go back for me?" he asked, slapping his forehead immediately after. "Of course. I'm such an idiot. There were bad guys there, she must have told the medic nins about me and they went to get me." Hiruzen shook his head. "Still not quite right. You were brought here by none other than Hinata Hyuga." "Hinata?" Now that the old man talked about it, he did remember seeing her there just before he passed out. Wait, does that mean that? After a few seconds of pondering, his eyes began to tear up. "Sakura-chan left me to die." The Hokage bit his lip and went on, deciding it was best to avoid the question so as not to hurt the boy even more. "Hinata called the attention of a few shinobi who scared off those 3 men before they could make off with you and carried you here on her own right in time for the doctors to save you. Even though you heal faster than most, a few minutes later and you'd be dead by now. You owe her your life, Naruto." He pointed to a vase of flowers on a table on the other side of Naruto's bed. "She was also the one who sent you those. I can tell that she really cares about you." But Naruto didn't catch the Sandaime's last words. He was looking at his lap, his eyes wide and teary, mumbling, "Sakura-chan left me to die." Sarutobi sighed deeply. He would have liked to stay there a bit more and comfort Naruto, but the sooner he alerted his forces about the men who'd attacked him, the better. Getting up to leave, he added a few more words. At this healing rate, you should be out of here by Thursday morning. You don't have to attend to the academy that day. Take the morning for yourself, but come to see me in my office at 1 p.m. sharp. We have very serious matters to discuss. Please try not to be late. For the following couple of days, Naruto grew tired of the hospital and its disgusting food. Apart from the Hokage, no one had come to visit him, so he spent most of his time alone, with nothing to do except for thinking. And Naruto wasn't a big fan of thinking. What else was he to do, though? So he thought. He thought about Sakura, who had abandoned him, Sasuke, who had surprisingly tried to save him, Hinata, who had actually saved him, those three ninja, and the reason why the villagers hated him so much, and what the old man could possibly want from him. He thought uncharacteristically long and hard, and he came to a few conclusions. Finally, Thursday came. Naruto was happily let out of the hospital at 11:30. He still had an hour and a half until the meeting with the Hokage, and he didn't feel like having lunch yet, but he knew exactly what to do with that time. Academy students always had a 2-hour lunch break at 11:45, so Naruto had exactly 15 minutes which he didn't want to go to waste. He quickly ran through the village to one of the shops which had never overcharged or refused to sell to the young Jinchuriki. The Yamanaka flower shop. Not that he'd had a lot of need for flowers in the past. The bell rang as Naruto pushed the door and entered. There was a tall, blonde lady behind the counter who he didn't recognize. "Hello there. What can I do for you?" she kindly asked. The boy went straight to the point. "Are you Ino's mom?" he said unceremoniously. Manners had never been his forte. However, the woman didn't seem to mind and she chuckled lightly. "Indeed I am. My name is Kayuk. And you must be." She examined the other blonde, his whisker marks giving him away almost immediately. He was the Kyuubi container. "Naruto, is that right?" "Yeah, how did you know?" Ino has talked about you," Kayuk explained. And it wasn't exactly a lie. Ino had mentioned the boy once or twice, mostly in anecdotes involving him striving for Sakura's attention, and from what she'd said it was clear that she didn't have a high opinion of him. "Ino talks about me?" Naruto seemed surprised. "Does she say nice things?" Yes, of course." The flower shop owner said with a fake wide smile, patting the boy on the head. "Now, what brings you here?" she asked before Naruto had the chance to continue. "I want some flowers for this girl I know." Kayuk raised an eyebrow. It was probably Sakura, and from everything Ino had told her, the older Yamanaka knew that if Naruto were to show up with flowers for the Haruno, the latter would most likely beat him up. "Are they for a certain pink-haired girl?" she asked sweetly, already going over ways to convince the boy not to go through with his plan in her mind. "What? Oh no, they're not." Now she was really curious, but decided not to press the subject. "Alright then, which do you want?" "I want some pretty ones." The Yamanaka woman chuckled. "All flowers are pretty, Naruto. Let me help you with your decision. Do you have any particular meaning in mind?" "Wah. Flowers have meanings, Naruto, didn't you know?" The hilarious confused look on the boy's face was good enough of an answer. For example, Kayuk pointed to some red roses on the counter. "A single red rose means love. I suppose those aren't the ones you want." The Jinchuriki shook his head, blushing a little. "Then you have dark pink ones." "That's it." The younger blonde suddenly yelled when he caught sight of the little cardboard sign next to the flowers, startling Ino's mother. "I'm sorry, but those are the ones I need. Dark pink roses. Those mean gratitude. Are you grateful to this girl, Naruto?" "I am. Enormously grateful, so I'll take as many as I can afford with this money." He dumped the contents of his toad wallet on the counter. "Very well. I'll throw in a few bluebells and white bellflowers and make a nice little bouquet for you, alright? They all mean the same." Naruto nodded and she started picking the flowers. The boy was surely not ungrateful. Maybe Ino had exaggerated a bit about him. About 2 minutes later Naruto left the shop with 20 dark pink roses, as well as some bluebells and bellflowers, on his hand. It was 11:50. He'd be in time with no problem at all. Naruto got to the academy 3 minutes later. It would be hard finding his target amongst so many children, so he immediately started looking. He found her 10 minutes later, sitting against a tree, away from everyone, a lunchbox on her lap. Naruto frowned. He had had no idea that Hinata, just like him, ate lunch all by herself. "Hinata. Hey Hinata." The Hyuga girl, who had been looking distractedly at the ground, quickly raised her head, eyes widened and blushing. "Can I sit down next to you?" The heiress only blushed harder, her mouth slightly ajar now. With no need for an answer, Naruto did exactly what he'd asked to, keeping the roses hidden behind his back as well as he could at all times. He couldn't help but to think that for someone who possessed one of the legendary taijutsu, Hinata was particularly unobservant. In the future he'd be proven wrong. "So you're out of the hospital already?" Hinata forced herself to ask. Yeah, I'm much better now." Naruto answered with a huge vulpine grin she couldn't help but to smile at. "Which brings me back to the reason I'm here. When I woke up, I remembered little of what had happened, but Aji-san told me you saved me. Is that true? The shy girl nodded. I thought so. The boy put on a serious face that Hinata had never seen before and revealed the flowers he had been hiding. These are for you. Thank you so much, Hinata-chan. That was too much for the poor Hyuga. Naruto was sitting right next to her, had given her flowers, and had called her Hinata-chan. So red that she'd probably be able to glow in the dark, she closed her eyes and fainted. Only to be awakened by said boy, who had dumped a glass of water on her head. I'm sorry, Hinata-chan. The blonde started, but the shy girl shook her head, indicating it was alright. And there it was again. The suffix. Hinata still couldn't believe that was happening to herself. It was just too good to be true. Here. The Jinchuriki handed the heiress the flowers. Dark pink roses symbolize gratitude, you know. She quietly took them in her hands and thanked her crush for the gift. Do you want to have lunch with Emmy and Naruto-kun? The word suddenly escaped her mouth and there had been nothing she could have done about it. Unable to look him in the eyes, she faced her flowers instead while waiting for an answer. Thanks, Hinata-chan, but I'm going to have lunch at Ichiraku's, and only then did he remember that he had spent all of his money on the roses for the girl, who seemed to realize that as well from his expression, and on top of all that, his stomach had picked the exact time to loudly complain. After delicately putting her flowers on the ground, she opened her lunchbox to reveal several types of sushi and rice balls. Wow. The blonde shouted. That looks amazing. Did your mother make this? My mother died when I was F4. I made this myself. Oh, I'm sorry. He looked down awkwardly, not knowing what to say. The second rumble of his stomach didn't help. It's alright. Anyway, I made too much F food, and there's no way I can eat all of this alone. We can share it, if why you want to, Hinata stuttered. The blonde boy was in a bit of a dilemma. On the one hand, he didn't want to bother the Hyuga heiress any longer. On the other hand, the food looked really good and he was really hungry. In the end his stomach won the battle and after a quick-eyed akimasu, he took a piece of shrimp sushi from the small box. Let's see if this tastes as good as it looks. He said, taking a bite. He chewed for a few seconds, purposely hiding his emotions to worry Hinata. So? She nervously asked. Naruto's eyes widened and he grinned yet again. It tastes even better. The blonde yelled, making Hinata blush even more again. That said, he could finally dig in. They kept silent throughout most of the meal, and when someone spoke it was usually Naruto, either congratulating the girl on her cooking or telling her an exciting, and likely extremely embellished, story about how he had escaped from a huge wild boar in the woods. Not that she minded. She barely remembered to touch her food while he spun his tail, completely absorbed in it, gasping and chuckling at all the right moments. Between bites, Naruto happened to take a casual look at the clock on the academy building. 5-1. He shouted so loudly he scared the nearby birds away. I'm almost late for the meeting with Aji-san. He got up in the blink of an eye, grabbed 2 rice balls, said goodbye to Hinata, and ran to the Hokage tower as fast as he could, leaving the girl alone with her thoughts. Thoughts that involved lunch with a certain someone, flowers given to her by that certain someone and a certain suffix that someone had used. Now she could finally faint in peace. 13:01, the Hokage thought. At that exact moment the door opened and a knuckleheaded hyperactive kid burst into the room. Aji-san. Sorry I'm late. He yelled, tackling the startled fire shadow. No problem, Naruto. Now if you let go of me and sit down, we can get straight to the point. The blonde boy did as he was told. Very well. Your dream is to become the Hokage, am I correct? Yeah. Naruto flashed the old man his trademark grin and gave him the thumbs up. And I'm gonna make it, believe it. A third chuckled at the boy's reply. Yes, I am sure you will. And I've decided to help you with it. After that incident the other day, I came to the conclusion that you need to learn how to properly defend yourself. He clapped his hands twice. You may reveal yourselves. Instantly, 4 Anbu members appeared in poofs of smoke right in the middle of the room. The academy is meant to teach children the basics of being a shinobi and very little else. Very few become genin with the necessary skill to face an enemy in combat, hence why new genin teams are only assigned D-rank missions, while their jounin sensei trains them into true ninja. Sarutobi continued. Unfortunately, it seems that you cannot afford to wait that long, and letting you graduate early would only hold back whatever team you'd be placed in. So I've got a proposal for you. These Anbu operatives are some of my most trusted and loyal men, and they'd never do anything to hurt you. Naruto, I want you to train under these shinobi in order to grow stronger. And if you successfully complete your training I will take you as a pupil myself. Hiruzen had expected an outburst from the kid. A yell, maybe some jumping around excitedly. But the blonde was uncharacteristically quiet. So what you're saying is that I have to get training from 4 elite Anbu, then from the Hokage himself? He asked. The Sandame nodded. Only if you want to. Are you insane, old man? Of course I want to. Naruto shouted. That was more like him. If I get training from you I'll definitely be Hokage. Said old man laughed at the boy's antics and even some of the Anbu couldn't suppress a few chuckles. I'm glad you're so excited about your training, Naruto. However, they will probably get very serious with you and that's not a problem, Aji-san. No matter what they throw at me, I'll never give up, I promise. And I always keep my promises. That's my ninja way. Very well then. Let me introduce your new senseis to you. This, the third pointed at a tall, muscled man with a mane of brown, spiky hair and a lion mask. Is Lion. He will work on your taijutsu and weapons training. Naruto hesitated to smile at first, recalling the man who had attacked him, but Lion gave him a cheerful thumbs up and the boy could have sworn he'd seen a grin behind the mask. Then you have Wolf. Wolf was an elegant woman with shoulder-long dark blue straight hair. She'll teach you about ninjutsu. Next is Owl. Owl waved to the boy. She was also a woman, with waist-long blonde hair. Fortunately she hadn't noticed that it had taken him one whole minute to take his eyes off of her curves. She'll focus on the theoretical part of your education. Finally, we have Hair. Hair was a man, shorter than Lion but just as bulky, with short messy black hair that made him look like he'd just woken up. As you may have guessed, Hair will teach you ninjutsu and chakra control. The Jinchuriki nodded his understanding and Sarutobi dismissed the Anbu, who promptly returned to the shadows. Tomorrow is the final day of classes for this year, correct? The Hokage asked. Without waiting for an answer, he proceeded. You won't be able to attend to the academy while training with your new instructors, so I've arranged for you to be allowed to miss about 2 years of it. You will, however, be allowed to show up tomorrow and stay there until lunchtime so you can say goodbye to Iruka and all of your friends. Understood? Naruto nodded sadly. He didn't really have any friends. Well, maybe except for Hinata. That's all for now, Naruto. Now go home and see to it that you get some good rest. You are to meet Lion, Hare, Owl and Wolf at training ground 15 at 13:30 after lunch and being tired won't do you any favors. The boy nodded and left. That day, Sakura Haruno had gotten to the academy early as usual in order to get the seat next to Sasuke. And as usual, Naruto had gotten there late. As the blonde boy entered the room, a feeling of dread washed all over the pinkette. There was an empty seat right next to her. Calm down, Sakura, calm down. She thought. Naruto's talking to Iruka-sensei, so you've got time to think. The Jinchuriki had finished his talk with Iruka and was now climbing up the stairs, getting nearer and nearer. Seats taken. Sakura yelled as he got there, putting her hands over the vacant seat so he couldn't sit down. Naruto just walked right past, not even acknowledging her. That was strange. Usually he'd beg to sit down next to her and although she was relieved, she couldn't help but to feel confused as well. The Kyuubi container walked all the way to the end of the room where Hinata Hyuga sat alone, like she did almost always. All of the other students watched in awe as the dead last, ignoring Sakura's stare, asked the shy girl if he could sit down next to her, request to which she nervously agreed, redder than she'd ever been. What? What are you looking at? He shouted as he noticed all the strange looks he was being given. Left from him, Hinata sunk into her seat, extremely embarrassed. Ahem. May we begin the class? Hiruka said after a few more seconds. He too had been astonished at Naruto's behavior, although happy that the blonde had found a new friend. He needed as many of them as he could get and there was no better person to start with than the Hyuga heiress. Today's lesson will be on Konoha clans and their bloodline limits. Moans echoed all over the classroom as the students opened their textbooks on the page their teacher indicated. Konoha, just like the other 4 major hidden villages, has a big number of clans and bloodlines. Hinata-chan, Naruto whispered. The girl reluctantly turned to face him and, while disapproving of talking during class, not that she'd ever dare to tell him that, mouthed a why yes. I want to ask you something, he said, before quickly adding if that's alright. He was more nervous than Hinata had ever seen him. Worried, she now gave him her full undivided attention. What is it, and Naruto-kun? The boy shot Iruka a few glances, to which the chunin replied with a knowing do you really have to do that now, we will have a break in just half an hour you know, look, nodding for the blonde to continue nevertheless. Hinata-chan, I was wondering. Are we friends? I mean, Naruto hurriedly corrected. I'll be your friend if you want to, of course, but will you be mine? I guess what I want to say is that I'd really like having you as a friend, but it's alright if you don't want to. Then, unexpected by everyone, even herself, Hinata launched herself forward without any kind of hesitation, temporarily forgetting she was in a classroom, in the middle of the lesson, embracing the astonished blonde and squeezing him as strongly as she possibly could. By then, every student had turned around to watch. If Naruto completely ignoring Sakura had been surprising, Hinata, who most of them had barely even heard speak before, hugging her crush right in the middle of one of Iruka's lectures, had been surreal. Even Sasuke and Shikamaru had abandoned their usual uninterested expressions and stared at their classmates with pure disbelief on their faces. Iruka pinched himself. But the most surprised of them all was doubtlessly Sakura, whose mouth was as open as it could be, an unrefusable invitation to any mosquito passing by. "Hinata-chan, you're crushing me," Naruto managed to let out. As if suddenly realizing what she was actually doing, Hinata instantly released him, allowing the boy to breathe again. "So I'll take that as a yes," the Jinchuriki said. The Hyuga, who was blushing harder by the second, somehow managed to pull herself together and nod. "Awesome," Naruto shouted. "You know, apart from Aji-san and Iruka-sensei, you are my first real friend." A short pause. "Iruka-sensei, I think Hinata-chan just fainted." So far Naruto's day had been a mixture of good and bad. On the one hand, he'd gotten his first friend his age. Someone who he could perhaps play with, assuming whatever illness it was that kept making her faint all the time went away soon and was actually kind to him, unlike most of the people he knew. On the other hand, he was late for the meeting with his senseis because he'd been waiting for Hinata to wake up with no luck at all. So he'd just gotten a friend and he hadn't been able to tell her that he wouldn't be able to see her again for about 2 years. His first concern was the hokage. He had specifically told Naruto to explain to his friends what was happening. Would he be too mad? And how about Hinata? She'd probably hate him when he came back. Well, it had been great to have her as a friend even if it was just for one day. "It's about time, Gaki." Naruto hadn't even noticed he'd already gotten to training ground 15. Lion grabbed him by the collar and dragged him all the way to the other Anbu. "You're 10 minutes late," Owl stated. "I guess punctuality is something we'll have to talk about on our lessons." The boy's only answer was to cross his arms over his chest and frown. Lion sighed. "Alright Gaki, before we get to our actual training spot, listen to the rules," he said. "For the next 2 years you'll train there, eat there, sleep there, live there, as well as us. You won't be allowed to leave and we'll get constant training from early in the morning to late in the evening every single day, and we all expect you to keep up with it, got it?" Naruto nodded, what looked like a mix of fear, anxiety and excitement in his eyes, and the taller Anbu went on. "As you already know, I'll be your Taijutsu and ninja weapons instructor. You will call me Lion Sensei. The same goes for my colleagues." Then hair cut in. "Your schedule will be as follows. You'll wake up at 6 o'clock sharp every day. At 7 o'clock, we expect to see you with your morning routine and stretches done. You'll then have Taijutsu and weapons training with Lion for 2.5 hours, from 7 o'clock to 9:30. After a 20-minute break, Wolf will take over for your Jinjutsu training, which will last for the same amount of time as Taijutsu, from 9:50 to 12:20. You'll be allowed time to eat and rest then, before a 2.5-hour class with Owl, from 1400 hours to 16:30. Another 20-minute break and then ninjutsu and chakra control with me for the usual amount of time, from 16:50 to 19:20. We'll then give you double the normal time to rest, 40 minutes, before dinner at 2000 hours. Finally, you'll have an hour-long sparring session with one of us so we can measure your progress daily and off to bed to get a good rest," Owl explained. "Got it." Although it was maybe a little too much information for Naruto to take in at once, he nodded, knowing he'd eventually grow used to his schedule. "There are some more things you should know," Wolf said. "Number 1. Punctuality is of the essence. If you, for example, oversleep, you'll get punished with a whole day of physical conditioning. We'll have you do push-ups until you drop from exhaustion." She was pleased to hear Naruto gulp. "Number 2. This is not, and I repeat, is not, a tough schedule. Anbu training is a tough schedule, not this, so we expect you to keep up with it. Our objective is that by the time we finish you're already low chunin or higher. Number 3. From now on, everything you're taught, everything you see, hear or do is top secret, and if you ever tell it to anyone without ours or the Hokage's permission, there will be severe consequences." The 4 Anbu then gave the info a few moments to sink in. "Great. Let's get started then," the blonde kid excitedly yelled, pumping his fist into the air. "Whoa, slow down there, Gaki," Lion told him between chuckles. He'd never seen a kid so enthusiastic about training before. "All we're going to do today are a few tests. You know, so we understand how skilled you already are," he explained. "We're not going to do them here, though." "Where to, then?" the Kyuubi Jinchuriki asked. "Naruto-kun, have you ever heard about training ground 0? Owl replied. The boy answered by shaking his head. "It's a secret training ground for very important and higher level ninja and some of the Hokage's elite bodyguards, like us," Hare said. "It's bigger than 10 of these regular training grounds combined and has got all sorts of equipment, weapons and so for the shinobi who use it to take and train. Of course there's also a small house for us to sleep in. Despite it being originally built in the woods native to the Land of Fire, some parts of it have been artificially modified into various terrain types so you can also get used to fighting in the desert or the plains, for example. It is also the location of the Hokage's personal library, which contains a vast collection of hundreds of scrolls filled with all sorts of useful ninja techniques," Wolf added. It's concealed by a genjutsu of titanic proportions so that people that don't meet those previous requirements can't get in. It has existed since the time of the first Hokage, and it's one of the village's best guarded secrets, one that we managed to keep that way from even the other hidden villages for all this time. Actually, it's such a well-kept secret that, back when the Nidain was in charge, a special vault was created inside the training ground, and throughout all of these years, most of the legendary weapons, artifacts and other valuable items Konoha has managed to get its hands on have been stored there. Noticing the excitement in the boy's eyes, Owl quickly continued. I doubt you'll be allowed to use any of them though. We might, however, take some classes to study them, Naruto-kun. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, Lion suddenly shouted. This next piece of information would have the boy jump up and down like a little girl, as if he wasn't already, and beg them to teach him. It's also known as the Hokage training zone. At that precise moment, Naruto yelled louder than he'd ever yelled before. Yada. Alright then, let's get this over with. Lion ordered. The four Anbu sat on the ground around a campfire to speak. Naruto had finally fallen asleep 2 minutes before. Wolf, your report. How's the boy's genjutsu? Well, the blue-haired Anbu replied. To put it simply, he sucks at it. His genjutsu skills are horrible. Non-existent, even. He couldn't manage to break free of the easiest D-rank illusion I could think of, let alone use it. I have a lot of work ahead of me, she finished with a sigh. Very well. Hair? Lion inquired. Naruto shows a natural aptitude for ninjutsu, with ridiculous chakra reserves for someone his age, and a unique brand of creativity that I'm sure will lead him to create a lot of powerful techniques in the future. There is a problem, though. His chakra control is unbelievably bad, and that prevents him from learning the Bunshin Jutsu and the replacement. The only ninjutsu he can do are the henge, and Hair hesitated, seemingly embarrassed. Yeah, that's it, the henge. Never for as long as he lived would he admit to have been knocked out by Naruto when the boy pulled a sexy jutsu on him. Lion looked suspicious, but let it slip. Owl. Naruto-kun shows eagerness to learn and a lot of enthusiasm toward subjects new to him, but he gets bored very easily and quickly, and he's got severe concentration problems. Given time, I believe I can get him over that. His troublemaking nature can also lead to some trouble. I advise you all to stay on your guard. I was told that he can be particularly inventive with his pranks. She told her colleagues. That just leaves me then. Lion said. His taijutsu is below average, as are his weapon skills. Now what you'd expect from a student with his level of training, but nothing that we can't easily recover from either. And that's it. Now, we should all go get some rest ourselves. If the brat's anything like what the Hokage told me, it's not just you who's having 2 long years ahead of, Wolf. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. Results of training. Naruto dashed through the woods, a half-eaten apple on his left hand. Damn, Wolf-sensei, if she hadn't given me such a hard genjutsu to break, I would have completed the exam sooner, and I wouldn't have arrived for Lion-sensei's test late, and if Lion-sensei didn't insist on finishing all of the exercises, I wouldn't have had to lunch in a hurry, and I wouldn't be late for Owl-sensei's test right now. He got to a clearing with a large wooden house on the middle and jumped down. It had been almost 2 exact years since Naruto started his training under the 4 elite Anbu, and the time to return to the village and the academy was getting closer. He just had to pass the final exams, and then he would have his comeback. He'd certainly changed during all that time, both on the outside and on the inside. He was taller, of course, and also more muscled, but apart from that, there were no other significant changes to his appearance. His hair was still just as blonde and just as spiky, he still wore an orange jumpsuit, and his grins and smiles remained precisely the same. Throughout those 2 years, however, he'd also matured and grown intellectually. Although his loud, boisterous personality had remained unchanged, he now knew when to keep it under control and no longer charged headfirst into everything. Plus he was much more powerful now, but he'd only know exactly how much after his sensei's final exams. Talking about which, he was currently late for one. He kicked the door open to find Owl standing by a desk with some pieces of paper on. You're late, Naruto-kun. She scolded. Owl was the only one who called him Naruto-kun. Wolf didn't add any suffix and Lion and Hair just called him Brat. Sometimes he wondered if they even knew his name. Tell me about it, he whispered. The blonde Anbu was probably the kindest and friendliest of them all, but Naruto had quickly learned that he did not want to get on her bad side. Her fury was a terrible, humbling sight to behold, and he still had nightmares about some of the detention she had put him through. So is this my test? He asked, pointing at the papers. Part of it, yes. She then opened a handbag she'd brought and dumped its contents on the wooden piece of furniture. And here's the rest. What? Owl-sensei, there have got to be at least 50 pieces of paper here. He then picked one of them up and examined it. Both sides. No fair. 39, to be exact. Owl corrected. You've got 2 hours. No pressure. Well, the test didn't go so badly after all. Naruto thought as he headed towards the clearing where he was supposed to meet Hair for the final exam. I mean, there was no way Owl-sensei expected me to do all of it. And 78 questions out of 106 is pretty good for 2 hours, plus there were some really tough questions. I mean, write a small text explaining the relation between Kurigakure's nickname, the Bloody Mist, and Shukaku, the Ichibi no Tanuki's attack on Sunagakure, mentioning the nicknamed Tsuchikage of Iwagakure, Hanzo of the Salamander, leader of Omegakure, the second great ninja war, Hanahagakure's hidden tree crisis and Kumagakure's attempts to steal the Byakugan. How the hell was I supposed to know that? Now all that was left was ninjutsu and chakra control exam, and if he did well then and had done well with the other, he'd be allowed out of the Hokage training zone, back to the academy, and the third Hokage himself would take him as a student. He really missed the village. The Anbu had kept true to their word. He hadn't been out of training ground zero since his training had started. He missed his small, messy, lonely apartment, he missed the academy, Iruka, his class, Hinata, and Ichiraku's. Oh, how he missed Ichiraku's. And if he passed his exams he'd be back to all that the following day. Hey Gaki, I'm glad you're on time. Naruto hadn't even noticed when he stepped onto the clearing. So, ready for your final exam, brat? Hare asked. Hi, Hare-sensei. Very well. Here's what you have to do. The four Anbu spent the time they'd usually use for sparring pondering and grading Naruto, and, in Owl's case, correcting his test, and at night, while he slept, they had a little meeting, much like the one they'd had in the night of their arrival, to discuss his exams. For his test, I had him perform a few Jinjutsu I taught him. Jinjutsu is not his strong point, quite the opposite, actually, so they were all simple practical illusions, designed to confuse your opponent and toy with their senses, to be used in conjunction with taijutsu and ninjutsu, since they won't defeat an enemy on their own. Wolf informed the others. Despite some slight difficulties with a low B and a few C-ranked ones, he managed to pull them all off. For the second part I put him under several illusions of increasing power and had him try to break free. His technique is not the best, but what he lacks in patience and control, he makes up for with the unbelievable amounts of chakra that he pumps into his own circulatory system to clear it. How many Jinjutsu was he able to break free of? Lion inquired. He broke free of a total of 22 illusions. He wasn't able to escape a low A-rank Jinjutsu, and we ended it there. His final grade, from F to S. Note that anything below B will result in him failing. I grant him a B in Jinjutsu class. Very well. Lion said, scribbling something down on a notepad. Owl. Out of 106 questions he answered 78 in 2 hours' time, an impressive number. It is obvious that the objective of the exam was not to complete it, but to see how he did under a severe amount of pressure. Out of the 78 answers, 56 were absolutely correct, 18 were incomplete, and 4 of them were just plain wrong. Out of 100 points, he scored 68, which is very good for the purposes of the exercise, and earns him a B+. Owl announced. Alright. Let's. Lion started, stopping when he realized that Owl was holding up a finger, indicating that she was not done talking yet. However, throughout the year he revealed a big desire to learn and improve. He behaved particularly well during classes and showed interest in many of the subjects. He also got considerably better results in other tests we made, and as such, I believe he deserves an A in theoretical education. I think that all that the boy ever needed was a bit of attention. Spare us the sentimental details, Hare told the blonde. This earned him an alarm clock to the head. Hare. How did the boy do? Lion asked after taking notes of Owl's report. Well, to put it simply, he's a natural at ninjutsu. It's like he was born to do it. He had amazing chakra reserves before his training, during which his chakra coils developed. I'd say that now, his chakra capacity is somewhere around that of a very high Jounins. If the boy continues to work hard, his chakra will rival that of the Kages by the time he turns 13. But isn't that the work of the Kyuubi? Wolf said. The Kyuubi has little to do with this. I hired a Hyuga clan member to look into his chakra system. While it is true that the Yondame's seal is filtering and purifying the demon's chakra and inserting it into the boy's chakra circulatory system, and it may speed up in the future as Naruto gets stronger and the seal weakens, only about a tenth of his current chakra was once the Kyuubi's. Bear explained. Onto the ninjutsu. Lion told him. Right, sorry. So as I was saying, the boy's enormous quantities of chakra and stamina more than make up for his somewhat lousy control. I taught him mainly elemental jutsus, from D rank to high B rank. My exam consisted in doing several jutsus of increasing difficulty. The more, the better. He had exactly 3 soldier pills at his disposal, but it was an hour before he decided to take the first one, and the third, he showed a tiny sphere on his hand. Is still here. He managed to go through all the jutsus he knew, and I had him repeat some until the 2 hours were over. If not for his lack of control, he'd have an easy S, but as such I'm forced to lower it to an S. Very well. Again, Lion wrote something and spoke himself. I guess it's my turn now. The boy likes taijutsu and is quite good at it. I focused mainly on strength and speed, taught him 5 different styles, from D to B rank, and had him show all of them for the first part of the test. For the second part, I had him show off his weapon skills. Because I taught him Taijutsu the most, which I believe will be more useful, he doesn't specialize in any particular kind of weapon. His knowledge is limited to the typical kunai, shuriken and the occasional windmill shuriken, and he attained an A for all 3 of those. Finally, we both sparred. Besides making use of all of his styles and weapons, he showed an astonishing ability to improvise, having been able to catch me by surprise several times. His final grade in Taijutsu class A+. He wrote it down too. All in all, the boy has grown from an academy student to a certain high chunin level. We made it. Owl stated. He made it. Wolf corrected. Mission complete. Lion said. Congratulations, guys. And congratulations, Naruto. 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 What? The Naruto looked at the person who was shouting. Lion sensei, did you just call me by my name? Did Owl sensei or Wolf sensei finally tell you what it was? Haha, that's really funny, brat. In fact, why don't you tell some more jokes instead of getting to know the results of the exams? Already? Naruto asked, earning a nod from Lion. Wow, that was fast. Iruka sensei always took ages to correct the ones we did back at the academy, right? Because he was just one and had a whole class of students. Lion said. But enough chit chat. Do you or do you not want to know how you did? Of course I do. Alright then. In Jinjutsu. You lack technique and control, but more or less make up for it due to your big chakra reserves. You failed to break free of a low A rank illusion and could not produce a Jinjutsu higher than low B rank. Naruto gulped. Those were too many negative aspects for him to be comfortable with. You gotta be. Lion informed him. The boy let out a sigh of relief. Congratulations, Gaki. My name is Naruto. The blonde yelled, annoyed, but let his sensei ruffle his hair anyway. An Owl's test, you answered 78 questions out of 106. You got 56 right, 18 incomplete and 4 wrong, scoring 68 out of 100. According to her, you show interest, enthusiasm and, surprisingly, good behavior. Who's the one with the lame jokes now, sensei? Shut up, Gaki. Lion ordered. You get an A. Now for ninjutsu. Hair says you're a natural at it. You lack control but have impressive chakra and stamina. You got an S. That left Naruto utterly confused. An S? What's that? Last time I checked, S was a letter of the alphabet and the mark above A. The Anbu told the boy. There's a mark above A. But Iruka sensei only marks tests up to A. Which probably means that no one in your class ever deserved better. Lion said. Not even Sasuke gets S's. Naruto thought. Anyway, Taijutsu and weapons now. You did good, brat, really good. I don't feel like going into details, so you got an A+. Congratulations, Gaki. You pass with flying colors. Naruto's explosion of happiness took Lion 15 minutes to control. Just quit jumping around already. He shouted, holding the hyperactive knucklehead in a headlock. You need to get your things ready. We're going back to the village now. The boy's eyes widened. As in right now? As in we'll leave you here alone if you don't hurry up. Naruto poofed away and Lion was suddenly holding a log. Meet us at the gate. He shouted, knowing that the boy would hear it. Naruto ran to the gate, carrying a small backpack that contained all of his possessions, most of which were sealed in storage scrolls. A few clothes, most of them orange, his many kunai and shuriken and some instant ramen. Apart from the crappy furniture back at his apartment, that was everything he owned. After 5 minutes, Naruto got to the colossal iron gate that marked the entrance to Training Ground Zero. The gate was the only way to go in or out of there without being blocked by the S-rank Jinjutsu that covered the whole area. Naruto briefly wondered how he was going to conceal the area when he was Hokage. S-rank Jinjutsu were definitely out of question. His 4 Anbu senseis were already there waiting for him. Naruto-kun. Congratulations. Owl said, pulling him into a crushing hug that stopped him from breathing and caused his face to go crimson. It also didn't help that she was unintentionally pressing her big breasts against his face. When you two are done, we'd really like to go back to the village today. Hair pointed out. Owl let go of Naruto and kicked Hair right in between his legs. Quit ruining the moments. She ordered, staring down at the man who was now rolling on the ground in deep agony. Lion sighed. Let's just go already. Owl, you did that, so you're carrying him. And so, the blonde Jinchuriki and 3 of the Anbu walked through the gate, ignoring Hair's protests and groans of pain, as Owl dragged him with them. The boy looked back to see where they had come from, but he couldn't see the training grounds or the gate any longer. Instead of those, a wall of rock stood, the illusionary mountain behind the Hokage monument, hiding the Hokage training zone from any unwanted visitors. A third Hokage sat behind his desk with a very tired look on his eyes. He had been taking care of paperwork for the last 4 hours. On his left was a neatly organized huge colossal titanic pile of forms, reports, requests and all of that kind of junk. On his right, a much smaller pile. The big pile had a small cardboard sign on the front. It read to do. Sarutobi sighed. He could swear that paperwork was reproducing. He blamed the upcoming chunin exams. You'd think it would only take a year or so to organize such an event, but he had started doing so 2 years before and was still drowning in paperwork. Someone knocked on the door, making the third smile. Whoever that was, it would be nice to take a break. Come in. He said. The door burst open and an orange blur tackled the unsuspecting fire shadow, knocking his desk over, which resulted in a shower of paperwork. Aji-san. We're back. The blur, which turned out to be Naruto, shouted. Wow. He then added, looking at the paper-covered floor. This is even messier than my room. The Sandame felt like crying. It would take days to get all of those papers back the way they were. He got up and looked at the group that had just entered his office. You're 1 day early. But where's Hare? He asked. It was faster and easier than we thought. Hare had an accident while training and got injured. Owl lied, her mask hiding her mischievous smile. We dropped him off at the hospital. Very well. Seeing as you're here too, the Hokage told Naruto. That must mean you've passed, right? He asked him, earning a nod and a wide smile. Here's the report, Hokage-sama. Lion said, handing the old man a couple of very big files. That was just what the latter needed. More paperwork. Naruto, you may go now. Sarutobi said. Academy starts in 15 minutes, and considering that you've only got today before graduation, I doubt that you want to miss out on the chance to prove to Iruka that you should be allowed to take the exam. After the boy had rushed out of his office, he turned to the three Anbu. Go fetch Hare. You and I still have some matters to discuss. The children stared at each other with suspicious looks. There was something going on. Iruka-sensei had something up his sleeve. He was unusually happy that day. Not even the huge fight between Ino and Sakura that morning had upset him. 5 minutes after the beginning of the class, someone knocked on the door and every student could tell from the look on their teacher's face that visitor, whoever it was the reason for his happiness. He opened the door and Naruto walked in. The whole class was baffled. He had stopped attending to classes about 2 years ago and there had been several rumors about the reason. Some said that he had left the village. Some said that he had been kicked out. Some others were sure that he had been arrested. Some even went as far as to say that he had died. Some said that a demon had taken him away, perhaps to hell. And then there were those who just listened and didn't say anything, like Hinata. As for Naruto, he waved nervously at the class. It was exactly the same as when he had left. Now, Naruto, why don't you sit down so we can go on with the lesson? Iruka kindly suggested. The blonde boy scanned the room for empty seats. As usual, both seats next to Shino were free and Naruto didn't intend to anything about it. There was another unoccupied seat in the back of the room next to Sakura, who was probably on one of her bad days since she had lost the one next to Sasuke to Ino. And finally, he spotted Hinata in the middle of the room with Kiba on her left and a vacant chair on her right. He came to a decision pretty quickly. He went up the stairs, passing by Shino on his way. As he got to the seat next to Hinata, he hesitated for a bit but ended up proceeding and sitting on the chair next to Sakura, who visibly flinched and moved away from him. This earned him more confused looks from the others, who still remembered the day when Naruto had completely ignored the pink-haired girl and sat next to the Hyuga heiress. Although Iruka was just as confused as his students, he forced himself to draw the attention away from the boy. Ahem. Every student's heads turned back to him. That was better. We'll start today's lesson with a few questions about what we'll be learning. Moans were heard all over the classroom. Now, Iruka proceeded. Surely you know that our village, the village hidden in the leaves, is located in the fire country, right? Most students nodded. But who can tell me where the sand village is located? A few hands shot into the air. Sasuke? Iruka asked. Wind country. The Uchiha answered. That is correct. The Chunin said. Some girls squeaked in adoration. How about the village hidden amongst the rocks? Earth country. Sasuke replied. Correct. The village hidden in the mist. Water country. Village hidden in the clouds. Lightning country. Village hidden in the haze. Sasuke thought for a moment before speaking again. I don't know. His fans let out sighs of disappointment. Does anyone know? Iruka asked without much hope. If Sasuke didn't know that, it was highly unlikely that anyone else did. That's what he thought before spotting something that made him smile more widely than he ever had. Naruto. Again, the students turned back to check on Naruto, who did indeed have his arm up in the air. Many of them chuckled. If Sasuke hadn't gotten it, how could Naruto hope to? Mountain country. The blonde boy said. That's absolutely correct. Iruka shouted with delight. Naruto looked around the room to check on his classmates' reactions. As expected, most looked like their eyes were about to jump out of their orbits. Hinata was just as happy, if not more, as Iruka, and Sasuke's fangirls glared daggers at him, even if their idol didn't seem to care. How about the village hidden in the valley? Anyone? The teacher asked. Naruto's hand was once more the only one in the air. River country. Correct. Hidden Star Village. Air country. That's right. Hidden Reef Village. Ocean country. Yes. Village hidden in the night. It was destroyed by Kumagakure, but it used to be in Shadow country. Very good. Hidden Tree Village. Doesn't exist anymore either, but used to be in the Fire country too. This went on for 10 more minutes until Iruka ran out of village names, Naruto having associated each with their respective country correctly every single time. To say that the chunin teacher was happy or that the class was surprised were both heavy understatements. Well, as you all have figured out by now, we're going to talk about the history of hidden villages and their countries today. The Academy Sensei explained. After that we'll have some target practice and then a written test. Remember that you must get at least a C in that test to qualify for the Genin exam. Very good. Another bullseye. Iruka said, writing the results in a piece of paper after Sasuke had thrown his last kunai. That makes a perfect score again. Congratulations. HN. The Uchiha mumbled, fans already gathering around him, shooting Naruto think you can do better. Looks. Your turn, Naruto. The teacher instructed. Alright. It's about time. The blonde boy yelled as he stepped in front of the target, ready to show everyone how awesome he had become. He knew he'd get a perfect score easily, but that wasn't enough to surpass Sasuke. He racked his brain for a moment to find a solution to that problem. The rest of the class watched as Naruto looked around for something, disregarding the target completely. Whenever you're ready, Naruto. There was a hint of impatience in Iruka's voice. With incredible speed, Naruto threw his kunai all of a sudden. It missed both the target and Iruka's face, the latter by a mere inches. Silence. Then, Naruto. The angry Chunin moved forward and grabbed his student by his collar before he could react. What? No, Iruka-sensei, wait. Wait. Look over there. Naruto shouted, pointing to where his sensei had been standing. He let go of the Jinchuriki and did as the boy had asked. I don't see anything. Look closer. Still nothing. Here, let me show it to you, sensei. The Kyuubi container said, leaning down to pick something up. He then held out his hand for Iruka to see what was on it. A fly. On his student's hand was what looked like two halves of a fly. I noticed it was bugging you and decided to take it out. Naruto said. Does this count as a bullseye? But Iruka didn't answer. He was too busy widening his eyes and opening his mouth, as was most of the class. It was lunchtime. Almost all of the class was gathered around the old willow tree in the playground, watching the usual fight between Sasuke's fangirls with delight, placing bets on the fiercest and most obsessed of them. Naruto looked around. That day's fight seemed to be particularly big and it had attracted most of the students. The only ones who weren't there were some kids from other classes, Shikamaru, who was way more interested in napping than eating, Chaoji, who was already on his 5th package of chips, Shino, who seemed to be examining a ladybug on a leaf on the ground, and Hinata, who sat against a tree, an open lunchbox that contained her homemade food on her lap. He couldn't help but notice that it looked as tasty as the ramen he'd brought. With a very long sigh, Naruto turned his back on them all and headed towards the swing to eat alone. I've got a surprise for you. Iruka excitedly told the class. Many students gulped. That couldn't be good. Because that exam today decides whether you take the Genin exam tomorrow or not, you'll be getting your results right now. He pulled a few papers from a drawer in his desk. Here they are. Naruto, who had found himself sitting between Chaoji and Shikamaru after lunch, watched as Iruka ignored the look of dread on his students' faces and delivered the tests, saying the grades out loud for everyone to hear. Sakura Haruno A Hinata Hyuga A Kiba Inuzukake. Sasuke Uchiha A+. Naruto took his hands to his ears, as did Shikamaru, Chaoji and most of the class, to muffle the sound of the fangirl squeals. Be quiet. Iruka yelled, going on with the delivery of the exams. Shino Aburame no Yamanaka B Taka, Ramoki B Akisa Nawaru D Seiso Akomo F Naruto Uzumaki. He stopped next to the Jinchuriki, careful as to remain expressionless. You got an S+. An S+? Is that even lower than F? A fangirl whose name was of no interest asked. Actually, the Academy Sensei said. An S is higher than an A. Congratulations, Naruto, it's been ages since I saw one. So that idiot had a better mark than Sasuke-kun. The same girl insisted. Iruka-sensei, there must be a mistake in the correction, or maybe the exams were swapped or something, but this is impossible. I say that the baka cheated. Another fangirl shouted. And Sasuke-kun must have held back. Two more fangirls stood up and opened their mouths, ready to give their own opinions about Naruto's mark, but the Chunin was much faster. Be quiet and sit down. He ordered. The girls immediately obeyed him. I expected you to have realized that already, but Naruto isn't the same as he was 2 years ago. Just remember the fly that was a lucky shot. The first girl yelled. Oh, so I suppose getting all those questions right in the beginning of the class was also lucky. Iruka stated coldly. Well, he must have cheated. She said. Seeing that he could not convince the girls that Naruto was not an idiot any longer, Haruka went for another approach. The exams were corrected by a professional team and checked several times. There's absolutely no way they've been swapped or wrongly corrected. Naruto Uzumaki obtained the highest grade, and that's final. Yes, but Sasuke Uchiha was given an A+. He informed. And that's that. The boy in questions didn't really seem to care that he hadn't gotten an S, but his fans were ready to object once again. But that's him. Geez, just shut up already. How's someone supposed to sleep if you're always so noisy and troublesome? The word troublesome immediately gave away the speaker as being Shikamaru. Look, it's really simple. Naruto got an S+, Sasuke got an A+. There were no mistakes. So stop complaining already. Such a drag. Thanks for that, Naruto told the Nara boy as the fangirls finally shut up and Haruka went back to delivering the exams. They were starting to get on my nerves at that precise moment. Shikamaru was given his test. So, how did you do? The Kyuubi container knew that Shikamaru was a genius, as were most Nara, and did not understand why he didn't get S's. The lazy boy showed the blonde one the little C on the corner of his exam. A C is the perfect mark. He explained. It's enough for you to pass, yet you always keep expectations to a minimum. Oh. So that's why. The Jinchuriki thought. He really is as lazy as he looks. How about you, Chaoji? I got a B+. The big bone boy proudly replied. Naruto shot him a smile. He then turned back after feeling a tap on his shoulder, finding out it had been Kiba. Congratulations. The Inuzuka said. I kinda wish it could have been me, but it's great to see someone beat Sasuke for once. And you of all people. What were you up to these last 2 years? Not giving the blonde an opportunity to answer, not that he would have, anyway, he proceeded. I've been trying to do it myself for as long as I can remember, but he looked angrily at his C. Yes, so, how about you three come with me and Akamaru to Ichiraku's today, after classes, to celebrate. You'll have to pay for your own food though, my allowance is small enough as it is. Naruto looked around. Only he, Chaoji and Shikamaru were listening to Kiba, so that meant wait, so you mean me too? He asked. Of course. You're the one who beat the Uchiha, after all. The dog Nin answered. So, I'm always in for food. Chaoji said. Sure, why not, Shikamaru followed. As for Naruto, he could only nod, euphoric about being finally included in something. Awesome. Kiba said. Let's meet at the academy entrance when classes end. What took you so long? Kiba yelled at Shikamaru, who was slowly walking towards him, as lazily as ever. We've been waiting for ages. Geez, calm down. It's only been 2 minutes, the Nara heir complained. You're always so troublesome. Let's just get going already. The Inuzuka turned around and started walking, throwing a fist into the air. To Sasuke's defeat. Speaking of him, Naruto had just spotted said boy from the corner of his eye, walking down the street he always took to get home, followed closely by Sakura. Hey guys, do you mind waiting just a minute? There's something I have to take care of without waiting for an answer. He ran off toward Sasuke, leaving the 3 other boys wondering why he had done so. Probably wants to make fun of him or something, Kiba suggested. Hey Sasuke. Sasuke, you bastard. Sasuke. Sasuke turned around, as did Sakura, to see Naruto running towards him, calling for him. What do you want, idiot? He asked, curious as to why the blonde wanted to talk to him. As for Sakura, she stepped back and faced the ground, unable to look him in the eyes. Well, I wanted to tell you something, Naruto said as he reached the Uchiha. I never really got to thank you for trying to save me 3 years ago. Sasuke didn't know what to say to that, so he chose his usual reply. HN. I know that you and I aren't exactly friends or anything, but you still tried to save me, so thanks. But before the dark-haired boy could answer to that, another voice was heard. Oh, isn't this touching? Naruto knew that voice. His eyes widened and his heartbeat sped up. Where have you been all these years, brat? We've been looking for you. We still have some business to take care of. Sasuke and Sakura seemed to recognize the voice as well. As one, they turned around. Before them stood 3 masked men. Their masks. A lion, an eagle and a cat. End of chapter 2. Chapter 3 Old Enemies. Hey there, brat. Missed us. Naruto didn't answer. Instead, he just gazed fiercely at the 3 men. Ooh, you look really scary. The man in the lion mask mocked, faking a shiver. But unfortunately for you, we were ordered to take you away by any means necessary, so none of your little friends will be able to help you this time. We will stop for nothing. Why you? Naruto suddenly vanished, appearing behind him a second later, a fist aimed at his face. However, before the punch could connect, the eagle-masked man jumped into the fray and kicked the blonde boy in the stomach, throwing him past Sasuke and Sakura onto a wall. Naruto-kun. The Jinchuriki got to his feet and looked at the person who just cried out his name. Hinata Hyuga. She had ran down the street towards Naruto as fast as possible, a worried look on her face. Are you alright? She asked nervously. Hinata-chan. What are you? Unfortunately, Naruto was cut short as he noticed the three adult shinobi were charging at him. Sasuke moved to intercept the one with the cat mask, throwing several punches at him as fast as he could, and while his opponent managed to block everything that the Uchiha threw at him, but at least he was kept busy. Naruto pushed Hinata aside to keep her away from the fight and ran to confront the two other adults. The Hyuga girl, however, quickly regained her balance and decided to help her crush. She saw her opportunity when the blonde boy managed to land a solid hit on the one with a lion mask, causing him to step away from his colleagues and charged at him much like Sasuke had done 3 years before. Naruto caught sight of what she was doing and suddenly what the outcome of it would be before it even happened. The older ninja took notice of the attacking girl and easily, almost lazily, kicked her in the chest with immense strength. She was thrown back, coughing blood before she even hit the ground. "Serves the little demon-loving bitch right," the masked nin mumbled. "Hinata-chan," he shouted, breaking free of the enemy leader's grasp by hitting, and probably breaking, his nose and rushing to her side as Sakura had already done. Sasuke joined them a few moments later, a little beaten up but otherwise alright. "She's not in any danger," Naruto said out loud with a sigh of relief. "Someone should get her to a hospital, though. We can't keep fighting them here," the man with the eagle mask stated, eyeing the 4 children as his teammates helped him up. His nose was bloody and pulsing with pain. "We'll be really screwed if someone else shows up. We have to lure him away somehow." "How about the girl?" the cat masked man asked, pointing to Sakura. "Doesn't the demon have a crush on her?" The others immediately got the idea. 2 took out flash bombs from their weapons pouches and threw them. The light momentarily blinded the children, and the third one took advantage of the opening and leapt towards them. When the academy students regained the ability to see, their foes were already a short distance away again, and Sakura was with them, a kunai being held to her throat. "Now, brat, either come with us or your little crush here gets it." The 3 vanished with the girl in clouds of smoke, knowing that the blonde boy would be able to track them. "Sasuke," Naruto shouted, turning to his classmate. "What?" the Uchiha replied, carefully looking at the blonde and wondering what was going through his head. "Please, take Hinata-chan to the hospital," he said, as said girl coughed more blood. "Please." Sasuke didn't move. "How about you? What are you going to do?" he asked. "I'm going after them and saving Sakura, of course. I can't abandon her even if she did that to me," Naruto answered seriously. The Uchiha thought about it. It was Naruto's fight after all, he had been the one to be beaten up all those years ago, just don't finish them off too quickly. He told the blonde as he picked Hinata up. "Save some for me." Naruto smirked and nodded. "Will do. Thanks, H.N." he replied with what seemed like a small twitch of the lips before picking up Hinata. Sasuke ran off to the hospital with the shy girl in his arms, while Naruto disappeared with a poof and a cloud of smoke. Sakura was carried by the man with the cat mask as the 3 adults dashed through the forest adjacent to Konoha, leaping from tree to tree. She had accepted her fate a few minutes before when they had left the village. She would die at the hands of those men because there was just no way Naruto would come for her. He would abandon her like she had abandoned him. Those would be the consequences of her cowardice all those years ago, and she did not believe that there would be any exceptions. "I guess you're lucky, girl." Before she could understand what was going on, they dropped to the ground and she was thrown against a tree, next to which she would lie for the next minutes. Then the one who'd been carrying her spoke suddenly. "So you came. We were starting to think you wouldn't. Don't think I'm as cowardly as you goons. You honestly need to take a hostage to beat a bunch of academy students." A very familiar orange-clad boy appeared with a poof. He looked at his opponents with pure fury, something that Sakura had never seen before, and she could feel the killing intent coming from him, even though she was not the target. "Naruto," she cried out of fear and guilt. "Get out of here. You're outnumbered. You'll never be able to beat them." But he didn't do as she told him. "Always underestimating me, Sakura," he mumbled. "I'll show you I'm just as good a ninja as anyone else." "Naruto." Sakura tried to warn him that one of the men had been sneaking up on him, but it was too late. The cat masked nin aimed a powerful kick at Naruto's back and went through the boy, who stood there smiling, before disappearing with a poof. "The Bunshin," he thought. "Then where's the real one?" He got his answer seconds later as a rock by his letter's feet transformed into the boy and hit the startled shinobi with an uppercut to the jaw. Now he had a broken nose and a broken jaw. Naruto turned around and started exchanging blows with the other 2 at the same time. They were good at taijutsu, but so was he. The blonde managed to block all of their attacks and even land some of his own, which infuriated his 2 assailants to no end. "Back off." The one with the eagle mask suddenly yelled despite his broken bones. "Leave him to me." The others did as their squad leader had told them as the latter walked towards the Jinchuriki, his mask bloody and cracked from the blonde's attacks. "You got 2 lucky hits on me, brat. You'll get no more." Lightning style. Fists of thunder. Saratobi Hiruzen had been meaning to read the report on Naruto's training, but sick of paperwork as he was, he decided it would be much easier to just call in the 4 Anbu hair was finally out of the hospital, and the third had yet to discover what kind of training accident could do that to someone's most private area and ask all the questions he wanted to. He'd go over the file for details later. So exactly how strong is the boy now? Hiruzen asked. He expected high genin, maybe even low chunin with some luck. Well, we estimate he's around high chunin at this point. Lion replied. That left the Hokage speechless for a few seconds. High chunin? How was a boy that started with 2 years of bad academy training able to make it this far in such little time? Are you sure about this? He questioned. Quite sure. In fact, the only things preventing him from progressing even more are his lousy chakra control and problems with ninjutsu. Plus he'd need to learn some more A-rank techniques. Although we believe he'd be able to learn some more by now, the majority of his strongest jutsu are all high Bs. Owl answered. Believe us, Hokage-sama, he's got talent, never-ending determination and a very strong desire to keep getting stronger and protect those who are precious to him. Wolf stated. If all of our shinobi were like him, Konohagakure would be unstoppable. I believe you. The Sandaime assured them as he relaxed in his chair again. And I believe in him, too. Now, how about his elemental affinities? If I am to train him in the future I must know what techniques he can perform. Well, Hair trailed off as he remembered the day when they had found that out. So what are we doing today, Hair-sensei? Naruto asked excitedly as he failed to stay in place. I assume Owl taught you about elemental affinities today. The boy nodded. We're going to find out what yours are and start working on your main one. Yes. The boy yelled, pumping his fist into the air. Ever since he'd been attacked by a Suiton using shinobi when he was 9, he'd been itching to learn how to do the same, and he'd long grown tired of all the chakra control exercises that Hair had put him through. Walking up trees, walking on water, too much control and no actual ninjutsu. But now they finally got to the good part. Here. Hold these. The Anbu told him, handing him 2 pieces of paper. 1 in each hand. Now, you're left-handed, right? Yeah, but when do we get to the elemental stuff? These pieces of paper are really pretty and all, but you told me we'd be finding out my affinity. The orange-clad boy's outburst earned him a hit to the back of his head. Shut up and listen. What have we told you about patience? Hair scolded. We are going to learn your affinity. Fortunately, there's a simple test for that. You see, that paper you hold is not just any regular paper. If you pump some of your chakra into it, it will react according to your affinity. The one in your left hand is your primary affinity, and the one in your right one is the secondary. The paper will burn if it's fire, get soggy if it's water, be sliced in 2 if it's wind, wrinkle if it's lightning and crumble if it's earth. Got it? Yeah. Naruto answered. Good. Now pour a little chakra into both pieces of paper. Hair instructed. A little. He repeated, remembering the Jinchuriki's tendency to overdo with the chakra. Alright. Now check them out. The blonde did just that. The piece of paper in his left hand had been split perfectly in half, and the one in his right hand had gotten soggy and crumbled to tiny little bits. Looks like your main affinity is wind. The Anbu said. And what's this? Looks like you've got 2 secondary affinities. Earth and water. Is that a good thing? Is it rare? Naruto inquired. Advanced shinobi can usually use 3 elements, the third being what we call a tertiary affinity. A double secondary affinity only means that your water affinity is as strong as your earth one and that you've got no tertiary. It is good. It's not unheard of, but it's not exactly common either. It usually runs in the family. Alright. Let's get started then. So his main is wind, and he's got both water and earth as a double secondary, Saratobi asked. Hi. Also, his secondary affinities are stronger than normal. Hair said. That's good, I'll be able to teach him some earth style, the Hokage muttered. Now how about? The eagle charged at Naruto with electricity running through his hands, and while the boy had never seen that jutsu before, he didn't have to in order to see that getting hit by it would hurt a lot. Blocking was out of the question too, so all that he could do was dodge. That proved to be more difficult than what he'd expected, though his opponent was fast. By examining their technique and style of fighting, Naruto had deduced they were all about chunin level. He could probably take each of them one-on-one and win, but it'd be very hard fighting the 3 at the same time. He just hoped the other 2 didn't jump in. Not until he defeated their leader, at least. The blonde boy fell on his back to avoid a lightning punch and kicked his foe in the stomach as the masked nin leaned over him. The power of the Jinchuriki's blow threw his opponent against a tree and gave him the opportunity he had been looking for. Wind style. Wind pulse. He shouted. A strong wind swept the area. It did no damage to any of the other ninja, but the lightning on Eagle's hands faded. What did you do to my lightning? Naruto smirked in cocky satisfaction. Easy. By pumping a lot of wind chakra into this jutsu and having it sweep the battlefield, I can eliminate any Raiten technique. Cause wind beats lightning, you know. He couldn't eliminate any lightning jutsu, only ones from D to high C rank and the occasional low B rank, but there was no reason why he'd share that information with the enemy. He had created the jutsu himself with a little help from Hare, but it wasn't completed yet. In fact, it had been a bit of a gamble to use it since he'd never tried it out in an actual battle. He was, however, proud and pleased that it's worked. As Hare had said, what better way is there to master a jutsu than to develop or tweak it yourself in order to fully understand it? Oh yeah? Then take this, you brat. Another of the trio yelled from behind him. Water style. Water fang bullet. Earth style. Earth release wall. The wall that the blonde created absorbed the projectile as if it was nothing. And earth beats water. You should study your elemental jutsu a little harder. Naruto taunted. The eagle mask shinobi, who had meanwhile gotten up, charged at the boy, as did his subordinates. Soon enough they were again engaged in a taijutsu battle. Wind style. Tornado blades. The Jinchuriki shouted. Sharp, deadly blades of wind were shot from his hands towards his opponents, who managed to dodge most of them and avoid fatal blows to vital areas. That jutsu had been taught to him by Hare, whose affinity was also wind. He hadn't had a chance to work on tweaking it yet, but although he wished it was a little bit faster, he was quite happy with the way it worked. He repeated the technique a few more times, leaving some more cuts and gashes on his three enemies. However, they just kept on charging and shooting their own jutsu at the boy, forcing him to keep moving and dodging, giving him as little time and room as possible. He also got more tired by the minute. Constantly running, jumping and ducking to avoid the blows was taking its toll on him, and that was saying something since he didn't tire easily, but he still wasn't recovered from the 2 years of training. He'd probably need 2 years of sleep to reach his peak again after all that and hadn't had the chance to get some decent rest yet. The masked nin got tired much faster than he did, but there were 3 of them and only 1 of Naruto. It didn't take long for the masked opponents to start using tactics that benefited their numbers. One would always fight Naruto with taijutsu, forcing him to block and preventing him from pulling off any techniques. Another one would stay back, throwing weapons and jutsu at him and protecting the third one while he rested. They had been at it for about 10 minutes when the one with the cat mask, who had been resting, stood up. The boy expected the enemy leader, the one who was fighting him then, to retreat and the next one, who'd been throwing shuriken non-stop, to come forward, but neither did so. Instead, the viciousness of the punches thrown at him doubled, pushing him even further. From the corner of his eye he saw the others doing some hand signs together. That couldn't be good. Earth style. Mud indulgence. The lion masked one yelled. Water style. Mouth of evil. The man with the cat mask followed. Naruto had been looking at them, distracted, giving the third one the perfect opening. He suddenly found himself being knocked back by a punch to the temple, allowing the shinobi with the bloody mask to join his comrades, making hand signs in the process. Lightning style. Electromagnetic murder. He shouted. Now you'll what happens to whoever messes with us. He joined his technique with the mud river the other 2 had created, electrifying it. Damn. Naruto whispered as he jumped onto a tree. That would be very hard to dodge. The water gave the mud momentum and fluidity, allowing it to cover a large area in a matter of seconds. The earth gave it the strength to knock trees over, and the electricity ensured that the damage would be more lethal. One touch and it would all be over. Earth style. Earth release wall. He expected the wall he'd created to absorb the water, rendering the entire technique useless, but a bolt of lightning shot towards it, destroying the entire defense before the muddy river even reached it. Lightning beats earth, didn't you know? Eagle Mask mocked. Naruto started to panic before making some new seals. No problem. I'll just eliminate the lightning first, then. Wind style. Wind pulse. However, the wind did nothing. You won't be able to eliminate the lightning while the earth and water protected. His foes roared in triumph. It's over for you. It certainly seemed so. The ground wasn't safe anymore as it was mostly covered in electric mud and it was only a matter of time before all of the trees were taken down. Then, Naruto would have nowhere else to go. Shadow possession jutsu. Someone shouted. The 3 masked nin froze. Eagle Mask suddenly stopped the flow of chakra by moving his hands and undoing the seal. The electric current ceased and the Jinchuriki jumped to the dirty but safe ground, walking on the surface of the mud without any trouble. Tunneling fang. Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu. Human Boulder. A giant rolling ball collided with Lion Mask, Eagle Mask got hit by a huge fireball, and Cat Mask met a spinning grey drill. Next thing the blonde boy knew, Shikamaru, Kiba and Choji were gathered around him. Sasuke was untying Sakura, who had gotten hit by a few weapons and lost her senses, and the 3 other shinobi lay unconscious on a pile. You were taking too long, so we decided to go and check on you. Shikamaru yawned lazily before the orange-clad boy could even open his mouth. We found Sasuke there and he told us to find you. Kiba tracked you down by your scent and here we are. Thanks, Naruto told them. Then he turned to Kiba. Wait, you tracked me by my scent. How was that possible? The genjutsu he had on himself at all times was supposed to fool even Anbu dogs. Yeah. The Inyazuka replied, obviously very proud of himself. By the way, you're not bleeding, are you? No, why did you ask? Sasuke told us that they hadn't hurt Sakura. Kiba answered. So whose blood was that we found back in the village? Blood? Naruto said, confused. Then he remembered. Hinata. Shikamaru, can you take these guys to the Hokage for me? No way, that's just too troublesome. The Nara started. You can. Great, thanks, got to go, bye. Naruto interrupted, clearly not listening to the lazy genius before dashing in the direction of the hospital. And just like that the Jinchuriki was gone. How can he still move that way after what he went through? Choji asked curiously. He's just troublesome like that. Hinata slowly opened her eyes. Why had she woken up already? She was still so sleepy. The girl inspected her surroundings. Lots of beds, white walls and ceiling, a smell of sanitary water, bleach and medicine, no doubt about it, it was the hospital. Then, as the reason why she was there slowly came back to her, she also realized why she had awakened so soon. Come on, let me in. An all too familiar voice shouted. Be quiet. A feminine voice that Hinata assumed was the nurse's replied. I can't do that, she's supposed to be resting. But I have to see her. The first person whined. I'm sorry but that's impossible. She isn't even awake yet. The second one countered. Ayano, Hinata said, trying to be as loud as possible and failing miserably. I am awake. However, the others seemed to hear her. They were quiet for a few seconds, then the first one spoke again. See? She's awake, now just let me in already. The door burst open and Naruto entered the room, the nurse glaring at his back. Hey, Hinata-chan, I'm glad to see you're alright. He greeted, then pointed to a chair next to her bed. Can I? Hinata nodded and he took the seat. So you are alright, aren't you? Why yes, how about you? She asked with a small blush. Of course that he had to be alright, he hadn't even been hospitalized and she couldn't put into words the relief she felt because of that, but she wanted to know what had happened. Course I am. We totally kicked those guys' butts. The blonde announced excitedly. They were no match for the awesome Naruto Uzumaki. The Hyuga girl smiled happily. What was there about that boy that always made her feel like that? Then she remembered the exact reason to why she was lying on that bed and her smile vanished. I'm sorry I see couldn't help, she mumbled. I can't know I'm not any strong so I should have just stayed B behind and not be a B bird, and she was constantly in other people's ways. Her father had always made that very clear. I'm terribly sorry you had to go through all the trouble of V visiting me here. Hinata was unable to face the Jinchuriki and therefore didn't see his shocked expression. Hinata-chan. He said firmly. Don't you ever say that again. It wasn't any trouble at all. And even if you're not that strong now, you can always train to become better. Strength isn't all that matters anyway, there's a whole lot more going for you. You're the sweetest, kindest, bravest person I've ever met and I'm sure you'll become a great kunoichi someday. I'm the one who should be sorry. That's actually the other reason why I came here to see you. Hinata managed to keep herself from fainting due to a mixture of confusion and worry. Blushing very hard, she stuttered. Sorry. Why? Well, you were my first friend my age, Hinata-chan. The blonde explained. Before I met you I only had Iruka-sensei and Aji-san, but after I was attacked and you saved me, I thought that you might be different from the other kids and I tried to be your friend, then I was gone for 2 years and I didn't even tell you. I know that's not what friends do and you must be angry at me and I'm really sorry for. I missed you, the girl whispered with her hair hiding her eyes. Naruto couldn't have heard right. I missed you, the Hyuga girl repeated, a little louder. I wondered why you were. I tried to tell you, but you fainted and I was getting late. I went on a training trip for 2 years. Naruto tried to explain nervously. But you said you missed me. Hinata nodded, too embarrassed to talk again. So you don't hate me? You're not angry at me for leaving or anything? The girl shook her head. So we're still friends. He couldn't hide the hopeful tone of his voice. She nodded and Naruto gave her the biggest smile that she'd ever seen on anyone. Thank you. He yelled excitedly. Thank you so much, Hinata-chan. I promise I'll be the best friend ever. And I never go back on a promise. The boy then leaned forward and hugged his friend as tightly as he could. Thank you. That was too much for poor Hinata, who still had a hard time withstanding physical contact with him. The blonde kept hugging her for 2 more minutes before he noticed she was out cold, her face red all over and a cute silly smile on it. Weird. Before he could stand up and leave, the door opened and in walked the nurse he'd been arguing with earlier. You're still here? She said with an evident look of disgust. He paid her no attention, however, concentrating instead on the person who just followed her, dressed in hospital clothes like Hinata. Sakura. Go away, now. The Hyuga girl is sleeping again and I doubt that Sakura-chan here wants to put up with you any longer. The nurse told him. Gladly. He coldly answered, surprising even himself as to how quickly his attitude changed before getting up and heading for the exit. No. Sakura suddenly shouted, causing the other two people in the room to look at her curiously. No, let him stay, please. The nurse frowned, but did as she was asked and quietly left the room muttering what's with girls and demons these days. Or something of the sort, but no one heard her. So why do you want me here? Naruto asked in a tone substantially less friendly than he'd used for Hinata. I wanted to thank you for going after me for saving me, Sakura said nervously while looking at her feet. Oh, right, no problem, I did what anyone would have done. The blonde spoke those words innocently, but as soon as they left his mouth, causing the pink-haired girl to flinch, he realized that they had hurt her. She faced her lap, but he could still see that her green eyes were getting watery. Nevertheless, she proceeded. Also, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what happened 2 years ago. Naruto looked uncomfortable as well, averting his gaze from her and fidgeting. Sakura, let's not talk about that. No, I need to get this out of my system. I need to apologize. You could have died. She yelled. I've been feeling terrible ever since. So you're just doing this to relieve your conscience. When he looked back at her, he wasn't angry as she'd feared, but the pain in his eyes hurt her even more. You think a simple apology will make it all better, just like that? Do you even care about me at all? You're right, I could have died. He had feared that if they continued that conversation, he might burst. Now it had happened, and all he could do was go with the flow. I could have died and you abandoned me. You left me there. I know I wasn't the brightest of students and kind of annoying, but I liked you, Sakura. I really liked you. And you left me. Was I so horrible that you'd leave me like that? Sakura faltered and took a step back. Naruto, why didn't you go back for me? His own eyes were getting watery, the image of the girl in front of him blurring because of unshed tears. Why didn't you tell anyone about me? I did. She replied, the tone in her voice almost pleading for him to forgive her. I did go back for you. But there was no one there, only a trail of blood. I thought they'd taken you. Then why didn't you tell anyone? Are you sure you're really sorry, or is this just a way to ease your conscience? Would you even have apologized at all if I hadn't saved you? If I'd gone back to call someone else instead? Sakura's throat closed as she found himself searching for an answer. Nah, if I'd died, if Hinata-chan hadn't showed up, would you visit my grave or just forget that you could have saved my life? That was the breaking point for Sakura. I was afraid, alright, she cried out, startling the blonde. Her cheeks were red and wet with tears. I was afraid they'd find out and come after me and my family. I was just a little girl, I didn't know what to do. I never meant you any harm. I had nightmares about that day for weeks afterwards. I hated myself for not having done more. She opened her mouth to go on, but instead broke down into quiet sobs, unable to relive that moment once more. Naruto, dumbfounded, remained silent for several seconds. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said those things. He finally said quietly, looking ashamed as he stared at the floor. I forgive you, Sakura. He knew that it would be very hard to feel the same way about her again, but perhaps they could still be friends, and who knows. If she really started acting differently, then well, leaving him hadn't made her any less pretty. I've got to go now, I bet Aji-san wants to see me. And with that, he left, happy to end the horribly uncomfortable moment. Thank you, Naruto, Sakura whispered. You won't regret that. Hinata moved slightly in her bed, thinking about what she'd just heard. Alright, calm down, calm down. The Hokage ordered all the shinobi in his office, who were attempting to deliver several different oral reports at the same time. Calm down at once and tell me what's going on in an orderly manner. There was a fight in the forest. 3 children checked in at the hospital. 3 unidentified masked ninja. Trees burned. Uchiha, who didn't sustain any severe. Brought by a student. Mud and blood all over. Bruno Sakura and Hyuga Hinata, who claimed to have attacked. Calm down already. Sarutobi yelled. One at a time. Then the door opened and a familiar blonde walked in. Hey, Aji-san. The blonde greeted happily, ignoring the other people in the room. Naruto. What in the name of the Shodaime are you doing here? The old man asked. Well, considering I was in the middle of this mess, I figured you'd like to know what happened. It would take less than an hour for me to explain what happened, and probably 5 if you let them keep at it, Naruto answered, nodding his head to the arguing ninja. Hiruzen's eyes widened. He turned to the others, gestured towards some chairs and said. Sit down and watch a real report being delivered. Naruto, if you please. So you're telling me that you fought 3 chunin level ninja at the same time, survived, managed to keep a hostage alive, and that they were defeated by some academy students in the end? The Hokage asked, earning a nod from the boy. Dog. He sighed, turning to one of the Anbu that he knew was hiding there, in the shadows. I trust that those 3 in question are locked in and secure. The Anbu revealed himself and nodded silently in response. Take them to Anko and Ibiki for interrogation as soon as they wake up. Find out who they are, who they work for and anything else that may be of use. Dog nodded and vanished in a cloud of smoke. Squirrel. Inform your superiors of this. They are to form a squad to clean up the forest. This said, Squirrel was also gone. Monkey. Inform the children's families of what just transpired so we do not get any more confused guests in my office by the end of the day. As soon as Monkey had disappeared, the third turned his attention back to the boy. Naruto. Just how powerful are you? The boy shrugged his shoulders. The Sandaime knew it was an honest answer. I have no doubt that you'll graduate tomorrow. However, given that your sensei seemed to be unable to accurately estimate your strength plus, with the chunin exams coming up, I've got so much paperwork to do. He wondered how to break it to the boy and decided to be direct. I'm not going to train you right away. What? The Jinchuriki screamed, just as the Hokage had expected. No fair, Aji-san. You told me you train me. I am still going to train you, Naruto, only later. But if you behave, I promise I'll make it up to you. The old man explained with a gentle smile. How? The blonde asked. You'll see soon enough. Now leave, please, I've still got a lot of work to do. The Sandaime ordered. The boy opened his mouth to argue, but he added. The sooner I get done with the paperwork, the sooner I'll train you. It took Naruto only 3 seconds to leave the office. The following day, Naruto was happy to see that Hinata and Sakura had been allowed out of the hospital and were in condition to take the graduation exam. Not only that, but Sakura seemed well enough to be up for her usual fight over Sasuke with Ino. The Jinchuriki spotted Hinata sitting alone in the back of the room. Now that he knew she wasn't mad, he could stop avoiding her. With a silly, joyous smile he headed towards her, only to stop when Ino and Sakura blocked his path unintentionally, their eyes locked on each other and electricity running rampant between them. In between yells of Ino pig and billboard brow. The boy was able to let out a could you let me pass, please. Ibaka. Ino shouted immediately, forgetting that she was in a stare-off with Sakura moments before, raising a hand to slap him. Don't interrupt us. Naruto was more than ready to avoid or, if needed, block the hit, but it wasn't necessary. Don't hit Naruto, pig. Sakura grabbed Ino's wrist and twisted her arm behind her back. After a brief glance of confusion at the Haruno girl, the blonde Yamanaka broke free and the two resumed their fight, although the subject had changed. Ignoring Ino's enraged "Why did you defend the idiot?" billboard brow. Yell, Naruto walked past them with a smirk on his face, whispering thank you. To Sakura when he brushed against her. Tiba Inuzuka. Please perform the minimum number of bunshin. Haruka called out as he entered the room when the blonde reached his chair. The dog Nin and his partner, Akamaru, got in front of the class. The exam consisted in producing as many bunshin as one could, requiring at least one to pass. Tiba was able to make 2, although the second one dispelled in a second, without a command. Sakura was next, and she got an impressive 3 stable bunshin. Hinata surprised everyone by achieving 4 bunshin. Sasuke got applauded by his fan club when he got 10 bunshin in the room. The rest of the boys just rolled their eyes. Naruto Uzumaki. Haruka called out. And it was finally his turn. He stepped in front of the class and waited for his teacher's order. You may begin. He made a hand seal and released his chakra. White smoke filled the entire room, along with several dozen poof sounds. When the smoke was gone, the classroom was completely filled with clones. They were on the walls and ceiling, under desks and chairs and on top of them too, inside cupboards and somehow, shelves, on top of each other. They didn't all fit, so I created some outside, too. Naruto said, pointing at the window. On top of trees, on the playground, in the hallways of the academy. Alright, that's enough. Just get rid of them already. Haruka shouted as he nervously looked around him and tried to deal with the unnatural sight of so many children in orange jumpsuits. It hurt his eyes. More poofs and white smoke, and all of the clones were gone. The blonde boy looked at the chunin examiners to check their reactions. They were all speechless and astonished, but the most surprised of them all were doubtlessly Mizuki, whose eyes looked like they were going to jump out of their orbits, and Haruka, who was the first to recover and shouted you pass. Naruto smirked confidently as he recalled the time when he had first succeeded in doing that jutsu, with hair. A pale, dummy-like clone of him lied on the ground, next to hair. Aki, we've gone over this 1,000 times already. You're forcing too much chakra into the technique. The Anbu scolded, but sighed shortly after. He had long found out that yelling at the boy wouldn't be of any help. I can't release any less chakra, Hair-sensei. Naruto shouted back. Is that so? Hair said as he pondered his student's dilemma. He'd just gotten an idea. Alright, try this then. Release exactly the same amount of chakra you'd release for a clone. But you said that was too mu. Just do it. Then, before using that chakra to create a bunshin, split it into little bits, the smaller, the better. Finally, use each of those bits to create a clone. The blonde did as he'd been told. To his surprise and delight, 10 clones popped into existence. Hair smiled. Finally. He said with relief before explaining to the boy what he had just done. Your problem was that you never knew the exact amount of chakra needed for a clone. When, in the academy, they told you to release as little as you could, then keep adding some until you got it, it was enough for 10 of these. Then, when you tried to create only 2 or 3 bunshin, you double or triple that amount, always pumping too much into each one. Now, I want you to do the following. Every day, try to create 1 less clone than what you have done now. When you manage to create only 9, try to create 8, and so on. You'll be able to do a single bunshin in no time. It was already night. A lonely figure sat on a rooftop, watching the full moon. The next day the new genin teams would be announced and assigned to their respective Jonin sensei at the Ninja Academy. Amongst those genin was Naruto Uzumaki. Right now though the person mentioned before was watching the moon in the night sky. That was a very impressive test performance. Someone said. A second figure jumped from the ground to the rooftops to join Naruto. Oh, Mizuki-sensei. Thanks. The boy proudly replied. In fact, I've seen chunin do worse than what you did. Mizuki continued. Really? Naruto asked, not used to getting compliments from anyone but his secret teachers. Yes. You could easily graduate to chunin, Naruto. I know that you're strong enough to do that and that's why I'm going to let you in on a little secret, although Iruka doesn't want me to. The chunin whispered to the recently made genin. If Iruka-sensei doesn't want me to know the secret, shouldn't you keep it to yourself? Naruto asked, worried. It's alright, there's no problem at all. Mizuki assured the Jinchuriki. You see, every year, according to the results of the graduation exams, the teachers get to pick one and only one student to take another special exam. Whoever passes it automatically becomes a chunin. That's why the teachers have to pick the best one of them all. Wow. That's awesome. So I've been picked? Naruto excitedly inquired. Well, kind of. Mizuki answered. I told Iruka that I thought that it should be you this year, but he didn't agree. He picked Sasuke instead. Sasuke. But I got an S and he got an A. And I made a lot more clones than him. The boy yelled. I know, that's what I told him, but he wouldn't listen. He said that you only passed the exam thanks to a mix of luck and cheating. And worst of all no, I probably shouldn't tell you this. What? Tell me. The Kyuubi container demanded. I would, but I wonder if you can handle it. I can, now tell me. Naruto demanded. Alright. Mizuki sighed. Iruka, he told me that to him you'd always be the dead last. He let his words sink. They seemed to produce the desired effect. The boy lowered his head, facing his feet. So Iruka-sensei he was never happy for me in the first place. His tone of voice indicated that he was trying to keep himself from crying. I'm afraid not. The blue-haired academy teacher replied, gently patting Naruto on the back. But don't worry. I'll always be here for you. The blonde sniffed. Thank you, Mizuki-sensei. Now, Sasuke will also be doing the test tonight, but only one person can become chunin. How about you prove to Iruka that you are not the dead last any longer? Yeah. Naruto shouted as all the depression he had before instantly vanished. He didn't notice the smirk on the white-haired man's face. Good. So here's what you have to do. End of chapter 3. Chapter 4 The Bell Test. Mizuki-sensei, you scared me. A little startled himself at the boy's outburst, Mizuki quickly removed his hand from Naruto's shoulder. I'm sorry Naruto. I didn't mean to do that. He tried to put on his best smile, but it came out a little crooked, not that the would-be genin would notice, just like he wouldn't notice the nervous glances Mizuki shot all around him. He jumped at the minimum sound from behind, the smallest rustle of leaves sounded like someone lunging forward to attack him. You look a little odd, sensei. Are you alright? Yes, of course. Mizuki quickly replied, a little sweaty under his collar. Perhaps Naruto was more observant than he was given credit from. I'm just a little tired. Let's wrap this up so we can all go get some sleep, alright? Nothing would please me more, sensei. The Jinchuriki replied, but something about his tone was off. And when had his smile gotten so sinister? Something wasn't right with the boy, but then again, he had returned changed. Before, Mizuki would have thought it impossible for Naruto to successfully sneak into the Hokage building and snatch the forbidden scroll for him. To be frank, even after witnessing the boy's new skills he had been uncertain. But he dared to hope and there he was, carrying the SC. Wait. Mizuki's eyebrows rose ever so slightly. Naruto, where's the scroll? Oh, an academy student like me wouldn't know, sensei, but perhaps you can ask Aji-san yourself. On cue with Naruto's words, the third Hokage walked into the clearing draped in his usual robes and hat, flanked by 2 Anbu with their hands already on the hilts of their weapons. Surrender now Mizuki. Hiruzen said threateningly, his voice laced with steel and anger he hadn't needed to use in years. And perhaps we can consider being lenient with you. The sound of the Hokage's voice was enough to send all of Mizuki's plans crumbling down in his mind. How had he found out? Naruto had told him that was the only way, but had the boy been aware of his intentions all this time? Was it all just an act? Had Mizuki been the one played? In a frenzied panic he thought on his feet, grabbing Naruto and pressing a kunai to his throat hard enough to make the boy squirm. His eyes were wide and frightened as he looked back at the Hokage, who seemed perfectly impassive before the whole scene. To hell with the forbidden scroll. He'd be lucky to make it out alive. No, he whispered quietly, a maniacal smile making its way to his face. Hiruzen remained completely still, and it only frightened Mizuki more. What was the old man planning? I don't think so. You let me go or I cut the brat's throat. Don't think I won't do it. Put the kunai down, Mizuki. The Hokage calmly instructed, not even sparing a glance at Naruto. Before you regret it. Like hell, you crazy old man. Who knows what you'll do to me if I surrender. I'll be leaving this shithole of a village now and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Nodding to reassure himself, Mizuki started walking backwards, never taking his eyes off of the third. Okage-sama, should we? One of the Anbu began, but Hiruzen cut him off, shaking his head. No. Let Naruto handle it. Naruto? What does he mean? Narrate. Before he even had a chance to complete his thoughts, he felt the tip of something sharp coming into contact with his back lightly. The boy he was holding exploded in a cloud of smoke. No, a solid clone. You're the second person to hold a knife to my throat like that. A voice announced from behind him. He jumped back before they had the chance to impale him and saw that it was Naruto. It didn't work out too well for them either. Multi. And no, Mizuki's eyes widened as he recognized the seal and the words. Shadow clone jutsu. Suddenly, hundreds of Naruto clones filled every inch of terrain available, making fun of Mizuki, mocking him, taunting and, on some occasion, giving him the finger. The traitor only had time to let out a horrified scream before all of the clones descended upon him. The next day, Naruto got to the academy earlier than usual because it was probably the last day he'd be there as a student or because he was so excited with the team placements or both. The boy spotted Ino and Sakura fighting over Sasuke and as always, the Uchiha didn't seem to give a damn. Shino was sitting quietly and alone on a desk by the far end of the room. Naruto decided to be nicer to the Aburum from then on and try to befriend him. Shino didn't seem to have any friends at all, and the blonde knew all too well how painful it was to be alone all the time, even if the bug boy didn't show it. And Hinata, asleep with her head on her desk. Happy that the girl was already there, he went and sat down next to her. Her mouth was slightly open, forming a delicate O, and she had the most adorable blush on her cheeks, contrasting perfectly with the lovely tone of her skin. Naruto-kun, she mumbled, stirring, moving closer to the boy in question and taking a deep breath, almost as if smelling him. So cute, he thought, only realizing the meaning of the words moments later. Wait, did I just think that? No. I like Sakura, right? But he couldn't lie to himself, and at that moment Hinata looked cuter than Sakura ever had. Then, as much as he hated doing that deep down, he gently shook the Hyuga awake so as to stop staring at her. Not that she doesn't look cute when she's awake too. Wait again. Where are these coming from? Then Naruto-kun. The girl whispered softly, slowly opening her eyes and sitting up straight. She had had a wonderful dream about the orange-clad boy before her. It was almost too bad she'd woken up, but she didn't complain, since that meant being with the real one. I'm glad you're awake, Hinata-chan. He hadn't told her anything about the night before and didn't plan on doing so yet. Iruka-sensei should be getting here any minute to reveal the teams. I really hope I get to be in yours. Iruka and the rest of the class arrived within the 10 minutes that followed. The recently graduated genin were unusually quiet that day due to being extremely excited about the team placements and urged their sensei to speak, something that had never happened before. Very well then, it's time I tell you what team you will be in. He said after waiting a bit for the children to be silent. Team 1 will be composed of Noti Yamakuchi, Yuki Kakawa and Toyo Kidasaki. Hinata was just as anxious as Naruto, if not more, to find out who would be her teammates. She hoped with all her heart that she could be together with the blonde and was extremely happy that he felt the same way about her. She caught Sakura stealing glances at him, but quickly dismissed it. Iruka continued down the list. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki. This is it, Hinata-chan. He whispered, as if it was needed. The girl had never been paid more attention to Iruka in all of her life. Sasuke Uchiha. What? No. Why do I get stuck with Sasuke? This is not fair. The Uchiha replied to Naruto's outburst with his trademark grunt. By then, every girl that hadn't been assigned to a team yet was just as attentive as the Hyuga. It was the big moment, time to see which of them got into Sasuke's squad. As for Sakura, she really wanted it to be her. Not only would she get who in her opinion was the coolest and most handsome boy in the class and a chance to rub it in Ino's face until the end of her days, but she'd also have more opportunities to show Naruto that she'd changed. For some reason she couldn't quite understand, she really wanted to be friends with him again. And Hinata Hyuga. Your sensei will be Kakashi Haddock. Hinata's surprise deep was muffled by the moans of every other girl in the room who considered it very unfair that someone who didn't even want Sasuke got in his team. This is awesome, Hinata-chan. We made it. We got in the same team. Naruto yelled, enveloping said girl in a bone-crushing hug and overloading her senses, causing her to faint with a colossal blush. Iruka held back a chuckle as he watched his favorite student's reaction and the girl who not so secretly had a crush on him. Teammate will have Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburam and Sakura Haruno. Your sensei will be Kurina Yuhi. The pin cat looked doubtfully at her new team. She knew Kiba hit on as many girls he could find and although for some reason he had never tried it on her, she deduced from the strange looks he was giving her that it wouldn't be that long before he did. And Shino was well creepy. Iruka sighed as he continued down the list and prepared for the oncoming assault on his ears. Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akimichi and Ino Yamanaka. Your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. What? The Yamanaka girl shouted. She had gotten the lazy ass and the fatty instead of Sasuke. Her only consolation was that Sakura wasn't much better. She had the creepy bug boy and the perverted mutt. On second thought, maybe Shikamaru and Choji weren't so bad. Iruka gave Ino a stern look. That's it. Now, you are to meet your new sensei here right after lunch in 1 hour. By the way, Jonin do not appreciate late genin, so try to make it on time. The third Hokage sat alone in his office, thinking about the genin teams. Building a genin team was always a tricky task, so it was left for the Hokage to do. Of course he didn't do it alone, seeing as he didn't know most of the children well enough to achieve effective placements, but although he was advised by their academy teachers and usually went along with what they said, he had the final say in the matter. The majority of the kids hadn't been that difficult to handle, but he paid special attention to 9 of them, the ones that the teachers labeled the most likely to eventually qualify to be at least special jonin. Team 10 had by far been the easiest of them all. He wouldn't want to undo the famous Ino Shikacho trio, and Asuma, who had worked with the original one several times, would be perfect as their sensei. The other 2 had been slightly more difficult. He knew that Sasuke would have to be placed in Kakashi's team to have his Sharingan trained, even though it hadn't activated yet. As for Naruto, Kurenai wouldn't be of much use as his sensei, seeing as she specialized in Genjutsu, which the boy wasn't so good at. Since Team 7 already had 2 boys in it, that left Shino and Kiba with the Genjutsu mistress in order to maintain the 2-to-1 boy and girl ratio. Then came Sakura. Hiruzen wanted to avoid putting her with Naruto, afraid of underlying tension resulting from what had happened 2 years before. Besides, Naruto and the Hyuga girl seemed to be very good friends, and even though Kurenai wouldn't be able to have the tracking team she had requested, there was no other way. The Inuzuka nose and Aburam insects would have to do. Overall, and although he had heard some nasty complaints about the Kyuubi being put in the same team as Sasuke, he was happy with the way it had worked out. Naruto's good mood vanished very fast as Team 7 waited alone in the classroom for their sensei to arrive. He had gotten in the same team as Hinata, he had eaten part of her lunch again which was even more delicious than he remembered, and Iruka had told them that their sensei was one of the strongest ninja in the village, but the waiting was really starting to get to him. Every other squad had already been picked up and Iruka had left after teams 8 and 10 were gone. He couldn't afford to wait for the eternally late Kakashi. After the first hour, the blonde had already lost what little patience he had. Damn. Why won't he arrive? He muttered. He headed towards the board, grabbed an eraser and turned his back on Sasuke and Hinata so they couldn't see what he was doing. When he turned again, it was covered in white chalk powder. With a mischievous grin, he slightly opened the door and placed the eraser on top of it so it would fall on whoever came in. Our sensei is an elite jonin, moron. The Uchiha said as Naruto joined Hinata, who was sitting on one of the desks. Do you really think he'll fall for such a cheap trick? The Jinchuriki shot him a shut-up look, but even Hinata seemed uncertain about it. A few minutes later they heard the sound of steps coming from the hallway. A gloved hand grabbed the doorknob, pushed, and the eraser fell harmlessly on the floor. A head appeared, the body concealed behind the wall. The man had spiky silver hair and wore the usual leaf ninja attire. A green jounin vest on top of a dark blue shirt, plain pants of the same color, sandals and a weapons pouch. The one unusual characteristic about him, however, was his face, which was mostly covered by a mask equal in color to the shirt and pants, which only revealed his right eye. His hit IT had been adjusted to cover his left one. Did you really think I'd fall for a trap that obvious? He asked. Suddenly, the eraser expelled more powder than it could possibly contain right onto the grown man's face with a hissing noise, enveloping him in a chalky cloud of pure white. As the target of the trap coughed non-stop, Naruto rolled on the floor laughing, Hinata let out a small giggle that no one heard and Sasuke smirked, amused and surprised about the blonde's actual plan. Kakashi got rid of the annoying substance by blowing it away with a weak Futon jutsu and caught a glance of the eraser that was still on the ground. It had a simple seal drawn over it. So they stored the chalk there with a small containment seal and had it release a Futon when it went off to blow it onto my face. That's clever. He thought, but the words that came out of his mouth were. My first view of the team. You're a bunch of idiots. Meet me on the roof. When the three genin got to the roof, their sensei was already there, reading a small book with an orange cover while letting out several girlish giggles. As soon as he saw them he hastily hid the book and gestured for them to have a seat. "Well, let's begin with introducing yourselves," he said. "Tell me your likes and dislikes, your hobbies, dreams for the future and things like that. Why don't you go first?" Naruto suggested. "You look kind of suspicious." "Me? Oh, well, my name is Hada Kakashi. I don't feel like telling you my likes or dislikes. I have lots of hobbies. Dreams for the future. So all you told us was your name?" Naruto pointed out. "Now it's your turn. Let's start with you there on the right," the Jonin said, pointing to Naruto. "Yosh. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like cup ramen. I like it even more when Iruka-sensei pays for my ramen. I also like Hinata-chan and all of my friends," said girl blushed like mad. "I dislike the 3 minutes it takes for ramen to cook. My dream is to become the Hokage and have all of the people in this village acknowledge my existence. Hobbies pranks, I guess." "I see," Kakashi said, sweat dropping and rubbing his head. "Next. My name is Sasuke Uchiha," the boy said with a sinister look. "There are lots of things I don't like and I don't really like anything. And I can't really call it a dream, but I have an ambition. The resurrection of my clan and to kill a certain someone. He better not mean me," Naruto thought, looking at Sasuke with wide eyes. He hated to admit it, but the Uchiha creeped him out sometimes. "Alright, and lastly, the girl," Kakashi indicated. Alright, my name is Hinata Hyuga. I like." She was unable to say the words, but the way she looked at Naruto spoke for itself. The boy remained oblivious throughout it all. "I dislike people who judge others based only on their appearance and don't give them a chance to prove themselves. I have hobbies, flower pressing and cooking. My dream for the future is to become strong so my father and my clan can accept me." And also this time she didn't dare to look at her crush, but Kakashi got the point. "We'll really have to work on her obvious confidence problem," the gray-haired man thought. So, as students, he had a lonely avenger who probably possessed the Sharingan, was the sole survivor of his clan, and dreamt of killing his older brother, a loud, dense knucklehead with a powerful demon sealed inside him, and an obsession with becoming Hokage, and an extremely shy clan heiress, with serious self-confidence issues and a major crush on the child, everybody thought to be a giant multi-tailed fox fiend. That could be interesting. Tomorrow we'll start our duties as shinobi. First we are going to do something with just the four of us. The three genin looked at him inquisitively. "Survival training," Kakashi explained. "But it won't be like normal training. This time, I'll be your opponent." He then started cackling almost maniacally. "What's so funny, sensei?" Naruto asked. Well, it's just that when I tell you this, you guys are totally going to freak out." He raised a single finger and got closer to them. "Out of the 27 graduates, only 9 will be chosen to become genin. The rest will be sent back to the academy. This training is a very difficult exam with a failure rate of over 66%. The looks on their faces were priceless. Well, Naruto's at least, since Hinata and Sasuke managed to remain calm. The blonde, however, had his eyes the size of dinner plates and his mouth opened almost to his chest. "Hahaha. I told you you'd freak out." "What? No way." Naruto shouted, furious. "But we worked so hard. Then what was the point of graduating?" "Oh, that. Just to select those who have the chance to become genin," the Jonin explained. "Anyway, tomorrow you have to show your real skills on the training ground. Bring all the shinobi tools you have. Oh, it would be best if you skip breakfast. You might throw up." He then took some sheets of paper from under his jacket. "The details are on this paper. And don't be late or else you immediately fail." "I can't fail here," Naruto thought. "I've got to show Kakashi-sensei and the others all I've got and make him recognize my strength. If we fail this test and get sent back to the academy, I might not be in the same team as Naruto-kun again. I have to try my best." Hinata thought. "HN." Sasuke mentally grumbled. "I guess we should have seen this coming," Naruto mumbled to Sasuke and Hinata. "Should have brought a deck of cards or something." Team 7 had gotten up early in the morning and headed straight to training ground 12 without any breakfast, just as they'd been told to. Unfortunately, the man who had instructed them to be there hadn't arrived yet and it had been 2 hours already. The three genin were starting to see a pattern in that. "Hey guys, good morning." Kakashi finally showed up moments late and was welcomed by Naruto's shouts of "You're late." He took a clock from the backpack he'd brought and placed it on a tree stump. "Alright, it's set for noon." He then showed the genin 2 bells which he then strapped onto his belt. "Here are 2 bells. Your task is to take them from me before the time is up. Those who don't have a bell by noon get no lunch. Also, I'll not only tie you to one of those stumps, but I'll also eat right in front of you." So that's why he told us no to eat breakfast, they all thought simultaneously, clutching their stomachs in discomfort. "You only have to get 1 bell. There are only 2, so at least one of you will definitely get tied to the stump. And anyone who doesn't take a bell fails." So at least one of you will be sent back to the academy. If you want you can use shuriken and kunai. You won't succeed if you don't come at me with the intention to kill. He explained. But, sensei, you'll be in danger, Hinata said nervously. Yeah, we'll definitely kill you. Naruto joked. You're so slow you can't even dodge a cloud of chalk powder. In the ninja world, those with no talent often bark the loudest. Kakashi replied casually. You can start now. Sasuke and Hinata immediately jumped back into the forest to hide, but Naruto didn't even bother to move. You really are an idiot, aren't you? The gray-haired man asked. No decent ninja would attack an enemy much superior in power straight up front. It was like diving into shark-infested waters headfirst. Kakashi had a quick thought about whether the boy would do that. Probably Naruto took a kunai out, spun it in his hand, and got ready to throw it. Before he could do so, however, the Jonin positioned himself behind the yellow-haired boy, pinning his arm behind his back. I couldn't even see him, so this is a Jonin, Sasuke thought, watching from behind some trees. So, you have finally acknowledged me? Well, it seems you are finally prepared to come at me with the intent to kill, Kakashi said. It seems I'm beginning to like you guys. At that precise moment, Naruto disappeared with a poof. A solid clone. That's impossible. A genin should never be able to make one. Maybe he'd have to be a little more cautious with those three. Naruto and Hinata sat together hidden amongst some bushes after having just seen the boy's clone being dispelled. Sasuke had ran off to somewhere, probably planning to steal the bells by himself. That idiot. Naruto complained. He said it himself. Our sensei is an elite jounin. He'll never be able to defeat him alone. We've all got to work together. But, and Naruto-kun, there are only T2 bells, Hinata said. Although she understood that that was not the correct attitude to take, she had been kind of hoping that her crush and her would team up and wipe the floor with their sensei. Then they'd each get a bell and Sasuke would be sent back to the academy and they'd be alone on the team and then she'd confess to him and no more daydreaming. This was not the academy anymore and they needed all the help we can get. Our objective is to take the bells. If we manage to do it and show all we've got, sensei will have to pass us. The blonde replied. He then proceeded to create several more clones who darted off in different directions. Those will guard the perimeter around Kakashi sensei and try to keep him busy while we look for the team. They darted off themselves and for the first 5 minutes the searches turned out fruitless. At least Naruto was still managing to keep Kakashi occupied by constantly spawning clones to replace those he had lost, and although he didn't feel tired yet, he wondered how much more his chakra could take. They couldn't move very far away from the jounin, so that the clone replacements got to him on time, and the constant flow of clone memories Naruto got was a bit disorientating. Ayano and Naruto-kun, Hinata whispered, seeing that they would go nowhere like that. I could use MIB Byakugan if you want T2. Byakugan? You have of course. She was a Hyuga. How could he forget about that? He had read on the Hyuga clan's famous Dojutsu. It would be perfect in that situation. Sure. Why didn't you tell me about it before, though? I guess I forgot, she lied. The truth was, she hadn't tried to use her Kekkei Genkai because she still hadn't mastered it and was afraid of what Naruto would say if she wasn't able to activate it. She would die of embarrassment. Naruto, however, saw right through her. Wincing as another bunch of memories got to him, he put a hand on her shoulder, making her blush as she said. Don't worry, Hinata-chan. I trust you. I know you can do it. The girl was suddenly invaded by a sensation new to her. Something warm, something really good. She felt like she could do anything, like nothing would be able to stop her. She couldn't, no, she wouldn't let Naruto down. She went through some hand signs with confidence she'd never had during any of her father's training sessions. Finally, someone encouraged her. Finally, someone trusted her. Finally, someone believed in her. Byakugan. She shouted. Chakra came to her eyes with more ease than ever before and she noticed she could also see a little farther, up to 200 meters, which completely shattered her previous record of 100. 2 o'clock, about 150 meters from here. They weren't even halfway through when Naruto visibly shuddered and yelled. He's coming. So far, Kakashi hadn't seen any teamwork at all, but that didn't mean he wasn't impressed. With the blonde, at least. It was almost inhuman to be able to make so many solid clones. Was that the work of the Kyuubi no Yoko? One thing that was surely not the work of the fox, however, was his Taijutsu. It was amazingly good for someone his age, good enough to actually give the dog summoner trouble, especially when multiplied by much. Kakashi had already lost count of all the Narutos he had destroyed, but they just kept coming. At first, he thought that the boy's plan was distracting him with dozens of clones and taking the bells, which although simple wasn't that bad of an idea, but so far no one had even attempted to get close to them. After a while, it seemed obvious that he was only buying time, and it surprised the jounin that he could afford to spend so much chakra to do that, but what for? He created a shadow clone of his own and moved underground, tracking the first genin whose scent he could find. Hinata. On his way, he received the memories of his replica that had gone down a little faster than the original had expected and knew that he didn't have much time left before Naruto realized he'd escaped. He finally got to a clearing where the smell was the strongest. Right on the center was the girl's jacket, an obvious trap that would never fool any decent shinobi. Did they really expect him to go and touch it? As he darted past it, however, a hissing noise was heard and it went off with a loud boom, spreading dust and smoke across the area. "Did we get him?" a male voice said. "And no, that was a Shadow C clone, the real one is J, just a little less stunned. Should we take the bells now?" Hinata replied, hopping down from a branch of a tree without her jacket. The dark blue fishnet shirt she usually wore underneath it was somewhat tight, showing the curves she worked so hard to hide, rather impressive for someone her age. "No. Elite Jounin recover surprisingly fast when they're supposedly stunned, let's just get Sasuke," Naruto told her. "Where is he now?" He ran off, followed by his friend. "He hasn't moved. He's about 50 meters in that direction," she answered, pointing northeast as she caught up to the boy, who was forced to look properly at her for the first time since she'd taken her jacket off. The sight of Hinata Hyuga without that baggy piece of clothing caused Naruto to avoid tripping on his own feet and falling from a considerable height by mere luck, even if to go against a tree seconds later. "And Naruto-kun. Are you alright?" she asked, genuinely scared by the boy's accident. "You're bleeding from your nose," she added after he tried to assure her that he was fine. "Oh, right." He quickly wiped the blood from his face with his sleeve, not feeling the need to inform her that it was not due to the hit that he had a nosebleed. Why had he never noticed that about Hinata before? They must have added a detection seal to the tag and somehow had it trigger the explosion, plus it was clearly modified to sacrifice power for speed, Kakashi deduced after examining the remains of the tag which had been attached to the jacket. He was no Fuinjutsu expert, but he recognized some of the changes made. It was required that every jounin knew at least the basics of seals. But that had been made by a fresh genin. Now, although it was a bit risky to keep on the offensive, he was getting more and more curious about their abilities and he hadn't seen Sasuke yet. He caught Hinata's scent again. Seeing as Naruto was with her, he found it a bit strange that he couldn't smell him as well, but quickly dismissed it. A quick shunshin and "Yo," he said, appearing before Knucklehead and Clan Eris. "I don't know what you're planning, but I'm afraid I can't let you go any further." Opposite to what the masked nin had expected, the blonde just sighed. "Guess we'll just have to take those bells now," then he said, charging against his sensei immediately after. "I thought I told you not to underestimate me. Lesson number 1. Never charge your opponent recklessly," Kakashi said as he took the boy down by simply sweeping his feet off the ground with his leg. "Got it?" the blonde shouted, his clone disappearing, the real one throwing some kunai at the jounin from behind him. He easily dodged them and got behind Hinata. Lesson number 2. Never let your opponent sneak up on you. He aimed a punch to her back but ended up hitting a log. "Gee, got it?" she whispered from behind the dog summoner, failing to hit him with a Juken strike. He then attempted to cast a Jinjutsu on the girl, but it didn't work since she dispelled it, maybe a little too easily for a genin. The gray-haired jounin sweat dropped. "Punching another clone of Naruto," he said. "Guess you don't need lesson number 3. Know your Jinjutsu, then, right? Kick, knee, elbow." 3 more clones were gone. "How about kick, swipe, kick ninjutsu?" "Sorry," yelled a voice from amongst the trees. "Already know that too." Sasuke jumped out from who knows where, his hands forming the tiger seal and his cheeks swollen. "Fire style. Grand Fireball Jutsu." Kakashi, taken by surprise by the Uchiha's early mastering of elemental jutsu, did nothing to stop the fireball as it enveloped him and everything within a 3-meter radius. However, when the fire was gone, there was a charred log where he had been standing. The 3 genin then decided it was best to be cautious and positioned themselves in a circle, back to back, waiting for their sensei to come out and whispering to each other, much to Kakashi's delight. Not only are they very skilled, they also seem to realize the importance of teamwork, he thought. Maybe I could just pass them now, but I'd like to know what else they can do. It wouldn't be long before Hinata decided to activate her Byakugan, so he had to use what little time he had to attack first. Offense is the best defense, they say. He created 2 shadow clones and had each of them attack one of the boys while he took care of Hinata. It wasn't as easy as he thought, though. The Byakugan user had seen the clones coming and they were able to dispel one of them with one of Naruto's own. After that, Naruto and Sasuke teamed up to eliminate the other one, and meanwhile, the real Kakashi hadn't been able to land a single hit on the girl. In all honesty, her taijutsu was a bit sloppy and he hadn't seen a single display of ninjutsu from her yet, but her dodging was formidable, even if he wasn't trying his best to defeat her. In between strikes, he saw the ramen lover and the Uchiha whisper from the corner of his eye. Sasuke nodded and, next thing he knew, he was being attacked from all directions by orange-clad cage buncheons. Shaking his head, he sighed. When would Naruto learn that shadow clones wouldn't work? However, there was a reason behind all that. Hinata took that as a chance to retreat, going back to the two boys who were going through hand signs. Blind style. Combustion cloud. Naruto shouted. Fire style. Grand fireball jutsu. Sasuke followed. Wind and fire style combination. Hellfire. Together with the sound of Naruto's "Hey. You said that I got to come up with a name." Yells, a fireball 4, 5, probably even 6 times the size of the regular Gakakyu, feeding off the air rich in oxygen that Naruto had provided to gradually grow even bigger, moved towards Kakashi. The Kawarimi wouldn't work with something that massive, and there was no water nearby for him to defend himself. When he'd told them to go at him with the intent to kill, he hadn't expected them to try that hard. Earth style. Earth release wall. He said, creating the biggest wall he could manage, and even though he managed not to get harmed, he found himself sweating hard because of the tremendous heat. To combine a B rank and a C rank to form a possible A rank, he checked on the genin from behind his protections, but they weren't there anymore. With a bad feeling he turned around, his back against the earth wall, to face a barrage of shuriken and kunai of considerable proportions. Kakashi smirked. It had been a very good jutsu and combination of attacks, overall a nice effort, but avoiding and defending himself against projectiles, even if many, was just basic for any decent jounin. He grabbed a kunai of his own and started deflecting all of the incoming weapons. By the time he noticed Hinata's absence, it was already too late. One of the last shuriken transformed into the girl, her arm pulled back and her palm open, ready to deliver a gentle fist strike. The copy nin hadn't been ready to dodge and got hit by her in the abdominal area, which was not too bad, considering she'd been aiming for the heart. That was some good teamwork. I guess that will be enough. Clutching his stomach, Kakashi raised a hand. Alright, that's enough. He announced. You weren't able to take the bells, but what are you talking about, sensei? They're right here. Naruto shouted, holding the objects in question. What? When did they how? The older man thought. He did his best to conceal his surprise, however, as he looked down at his belt. With all the fighting he hadn't even taken a proper look at it. Clever. A simple touch was all it took to cause the bells strapped to his waist to vanish with a poof and some smoke. Here you go, Hinata-chan. The blonde said, handing her a bell. And here you go, idiot. He continued, shoving the other one into Sasuke's hands. And Naruto-kun, I don't want it, and not if it means you won't get one, the shy girl said, meaning to return hers to the boy. No. You and that loser need them more than I do. If I go back to the academy I'll just end up graduating again in a couple of days. Sasuke interrupted. Don't be so cocky, bastard. His attitude had surprised Naruto. Maybe he wasn't so bad after all, even if still a cold, arrogant little prick with a Hokage monument-sized stick up his ass. I'll be the one to graduate in 2 days. Unbelievable. The fight about who gets the bells has already turned into a competition. Ayano Sasuke's and you can have my B bell if you want T2U, and Naruto-kun should be the one's T2P pass. I barely did anything. Hinata-chan. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to snatch the bells. Alright, that's enough. Kakashi yelled. The 3 genin had even forgot about him. You all pass. Congratulations. You are the first team to do so. Covering his ears so as not to hear Naruto's what. He proceeded. A ninja must see underneath the underneath. Those who break the rules of the ninja world are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. The true objective of this exercise was to work as a team, even if that meant that one of you would be sent back. The fact that there were only 2 bells should have caused you to compete with each other, yet you knew you'd only be able to get them by working together, plus you didn't fight for them in the end. I'm also surprised you were actually able to take them, even if just because I underestimated you. I'll be looking forward to working with you. Hinata, I'll be at your house tomorrow to inform your father of this. I'm sure he already knows what you're getting into, but it's standard procedure. You're all dismissed. Sasuke had already left to the Uchiha compound, not bothering to spend more time with his teammates, leaving them alone by the Hokage tower. Hinata-chan. How about we go and have lunch somewhere to celebrate? I'd also like to make it up to you for ruining your jacket, Naruto said excitedly, scratching the back of his head with an apologetic grin. Ignoring the little voice in her mind that insisted that it would almost be like a date with him, Hinata forced herself to be convinced that it was only as friends and teammates. It's alright, I've got plenty of them at home. You don't have T2M, make it up F4M me if you don't want to. The boy sighed and shook his head. Hinata-chan, when will you learn? You're not a burden or a nuisance of any type, I enjoy spending time with you. We're friends, after all. His eyes, which had been gazing at her face, slowly moved down to her breasts for what could be the 100th time that day. He quickly realized what he was doing and looked at her face again before she could notice, then repeated it all over again. He was young, but he was still a man. Now, it's a bit cold, will it take long for you to get home and get another jacket or something? I think so. My house is kind of far from here," she finished her sentence in the shape of a thought. "And father won't let me out again once I go in." "I see, well, I guess you'll just have to use this, then," Naruto said, taking off his own jacket and handing it to Hinata. He had a plain black t-shirt underneath. "I'm not that cold. You don't mind, do you?" "Mind?" It was like a dream come true. She took the orange piece of clothing from the blonde's hands with wide eyes and a crimson face. It smelled of forest and raiment, it smelled of Naruto. As she put it on, she felt the warmth envelop her, almost as if he was hugging her. Arigato. "No problem. Now, have you ever eaten at Ichiraku's?" It was obvious that he'd been dying to ask that from the very beginning of the conversation, and the girl couldn't help but to giggle at his silly grin. It was wonderful, the way he shared that kind of raw emotion with the world, sometimes. As for Ichiraku's, she'd gone there several times to watch a certain knucklehead, but she'd never actually eaten there. And no, the boy was practically bouncing out of his skin at this point. "You have got to try it, then. There's no better ramen in the whole world." He then grabbed her hand and guided her through the village before realizing something and coming to an abrupt stop. "That is, if you want to go somewhere else, I'd be happy to. I'd love to try Ichiraku's with you," and Naruto-kun. Hinata interrupted, touched that he was willing to give up on his favorite restaurant because of her. Did that mean that he liked her more than he liked ramen? The boy put on a foxy grin. "Great." He then led her the rest of the way and into a small establishment where an old gray-haired man dressed as a cook and a brown-haired girl greeted them. "Naruto," the old man said. It was good to see that there were at least some people that didn't hate him. "I see you've brought your girlfriend along today. She's quite a catch." Hinata blushed even more because of the teasing and the fact that she was still holding hands with the boy. They hastily let go of each other and she bowed low to the two ramen chefs. "Hello, my name is Hinata Hyuga. It's a pleasure to meet you." They returned the bow and introduced themselves as well. "I'm Tucci and this is my daughter, Am," the old man informed her. "So, Naruto, what's it gonna be today?" "The usual, Aji-san," he replied before turning to his teammate. "What are you going to have, Hinata-chan?" I'll have a bowl of miso ramen, please," she said nervously. "Am?" Tucci yelled to his daughter, who had meanwhile gone back to the kitchen. "8 miso and 2 pork." After that he went off to join her so that they could have the massive order ready as fast as possible. "So Hinata-chan, how's your training been going?" Naruto asked, attempting to break the uncomfortable silence that had been created. Hinata smiled, happy at the attention she was being given, and opened her mouth to answer, but was interrupted by "Naruto," a feminine voice shouted. The two teammates spun in their seats. There came Sakura, running towards them. "Hi Naruto." "Hi Hinata." "Sakura-san." The Hyuga replied with a bow, while the boy went for a more informal hey. Sakura sat down on the chair by his left, while Hinata occupied the one on his right. The pin-cat eyed the blue-haired girl suspiciously. "Why is she wearing your jacket?" she asked, surprising even herself because of the hint of jealousy in her voice. "It's kind of cold and I blew up hers, so I lent her mine so we could have lunch together without her having to go home to get another one," he said matter-of-factly, not noticing anything out of the ordinary. "I was just asking her how she has been doing with her training." "Oh, my training is going great," the Haruno girl said excitedly, once more preventing Hinata from speaking. "We passed Kurenai-sensei's test. You should have seen us. There was this sort of obstacle course, right, and we had to get to the end, and the last one would get sent back to the academy, but we wouldn't be able to get through some of the obstacles if we didn't work together, but we were competing against each other, see?" How had she been able to say all of that without a single breath in between? "And it was me who came up with the idea to it was then that the food arrived." Sakura ignored that and kept talking until Naruto and Hinata were both finished. The blonde was sorry that had turned out such a lousy time for Hinata, who hadn't had the chance to speak since Sakura had showed up, but he was also happy that the pink-haired girl was actually trying to become a better kunoichi and was able to see past the appearance of her teammates and put the team before herself. She was obviously very proud of herself too. "Wow, it's this late already?" he said, taking a glance at the clock on the wall. "I promised Gigi-sen I'd meet him 5 minutes ago." He quickly got up and said goodbye to both girls. As he left, he whispered to Hinata. "Sorry about that. I promise I'll make it up to you with another meal someday." The two kunoichi watched him go until he was gone from sight. "I guess I should be going too. See you around, Hinata." She had just exited Ichiraku's when a hand grabbed her shoulder, stopping her from going any further. It was, of course, the Hyuga girl, still in Naruto's jacket, which he had forgotten. "Sakura-san, please wait. I'd like to ask you something," she said, trying to control her stuttering. Sakura moaned childishly. "Does it have to be now? Ino will be at Sasu-kun's door in a while and I don't want to leave him alone with her. It won't be long." Please, I really need to know," Hinata told the Pinkette, tightening the hold on her shoulder. The green-eyed girl sighed in defeat. "Fine, what do you want to know, then?" The shy girl looked around to make sure there was no one nearby. She then went back to facing Sakura with the most serious look she'd ever had in her whole life. "What was that about you abandoning Naruto-kun?" End of chapter 4. Chapter 5. Mission to the Land of Waves. What was that about you abandoning Naruto-kun? Sakura broke free of Hinata's grasp and took a step back, her eyes widening. Whatever she'd been expecting to hear from the shy girl, it was certainly not that. How do you know of that?" the Pinkette asked, terrified. She'd been hoping to keep it a secret from everyone. Hinata blushed, looking slightly embarrassed, but quickly regained her composure. "I heard you T2T talking about it in the hospital. Answer the question, please." I thought you were sleeping," Sakura yelled, outraged. "How much did you hear?" She hoped that the other girl hadn't caught the part about leaving him to die. "All I can know is that you abandoned him and he was devastated because of that. But I'd like to find out more," the Hyuga replied. Why couldn't she get that damn stuttering under control? You should talk to Naruto about that, not me. Goodbye. The Haruno turned around and meant to leave, but was grabbed again. This time it was her wrist. "It was you who abandoned him, not the other way around. Now tell me what happened," Hinata quietly demanded, surprising herself. The tone she'd used was the one her father would usually take to order his servants around. She quickly shook her head to get rid of such thoughts and focus on the matter at hand. For Sakura to try to run it was doubtlessly worse than she'd expected. What do you have to do with it anyway? Next time think twice before sticking your nose into other people's business. The pink-haired girl tried to pull her arm back, but it was being held surprisingly strongly. "I may be shy, Sakura-san, but I am not dumb. And Naruto-kun was gone from the village for the past 2 years and he started acting strangely toward you the day before he left, the day after he was attacked by those 3 chunin. I'm sure it has something to do with that, and before you start questioning my involvement in all of that, please remember that it was I who saved him. He'd be dead by now if I hadn't scared the thugs away and carried him all the way to the hospital." I didn't know that," Sakura muttered, looking at the other girl with a surprised expression and ceasing her struggle. Hinata closed her eyes for a second and took a deep breath. I excuse me for my outburst, that wasn't like me at all," she said, releasing Sakura. "I'm just concerned about Naruto-kun. I care for him very deeply but you're right, that is between you and him and I promise, I won't be so nosy anymore." "No," the pink-haired girl said, putting a hand on Hinata's shoulder to stop her from leaving. "You're right, not me. You were involved in it too, and because you care about him you deserve to know. I'm just going to ask for 2 favors before I start. Is that alright?" The shy heiress nodded for her to continue. The Haruno shifted uneasily. "This is probably the thing I regret the most in my whole life. Naruto, he has always been a good friend, yet I was too blind to see it. He treated me like a princess and I did the exact opposite to him. I'd like you to promise you'll never tell this to anyone without my or Naruto's permission. He was nice enough to keep this a secret from everyone else, even though I don't deserve it. I promise." Hinata stuttered, already not liking where this was going. "Thank you. Finally, I want to say that I will not ask for your acceptance or forgiveness. What I did was truly awful and you have every right to be angry at me, as had Naruto. All that I ask for is that you try to understand my reasons and that I was nothing but a spoiled child back then. Naruto was kinder to me than he should have been and gave me a chance to prove that I've changed. I'll become a better girl and Kunoichi and earn his friendship back. I will try." "Thanks," Sakura sighed. It was time she stopped stalling. I left him to die." Ignoring the utterly shocked look on Hinata's face, she forced herself to proceed to relive for the second time the memories she'd been trying to suppress for the last 2 years. He followed me and Sasuke-kun after class 2 to ask me if I wanted him to walk me home when those 3 shinobi showed up. They were about to hurt him when Sasuke-kun jumped in, but one of them kicked him in the chest and knocked him out. He started coughing out all this blood, then they started beating up Naruto, and there was even more blood everywhere, and he asked me to help him and I didn't. I panicked, grabbed Sasuke-kun and took him to the hospital and left Naruto by himself. When I left the hospital after dropping Sasuke-kun off, I was afraid they'd come after me and my family if I talked to an adult, so I just abandoned Naruto, tried to forget he ever existed, but then he showed up the next day, and I guess you know the rest." She had been facing the ground that whole time and finally took a glance at Hinata, who seemed to be deep in thought. And again, her vision was kind of blurry because of the tears on her eyes. "Sakura-san," Hinata mumbled, her head bowed down so that the other girl couldn't read her face completely. "I know, I'm a coward. I was horrible to him when we were younger, when all he wanted was some of my attention since he gave all of his to me, and then I go and do something like this. I don't deserve his forgiveness or yours, but I'll try my hardest to make sure he'll never regret it," Sakura yelled. I know how much you care about him, and although it's not worth much, I'm sorry. I understand if you don't forgive me and if you want to hit me or something. Sakura-san, if Naruto-kun can forgive you, so can I, Hinata interrupted, obviously uncertain about her decision. And if you manage to prove yourself to Naruto-kun, you will have proven yourself to me as well. But you must return the favors I'll be doing for you. Please, do not tell Naruto-kun of my feelings for him. That is something I have to do myself. Sakura nodded and both girls parted ways with no further words to each other. They had a lot on their minds already. I still don't understand how you do it. Naruto shouted. Team 7 was on its way to the academy, where the lower rank missions were assigned to complete their most recent tier rank. It was the 9th, maybe even 10th time they had to capture every genin's worst enemy. Tora, the fire daimyo's wife's cat. They had beaten their previous record again, thanks to Hinata, who held the feline terror in her arms, petting it tenderly. I don't. The blonde insisted, watching one of the scratches he had sustained from trying to copy the Hyuga girl heal right before everyone's eyes. Sasuke looked surprised as well and tried to hide his own injuries. If you mean it and no harm, Naruto-kun, it's very easy to be befriend an animal, she said, tracing circles on the cat's head with her index finger. Alright, let me try again, then. Naruto yelled determinedly, reaching out to touch the wicked beast. It reacted by jumping down to the ground, hissing loudly and then burying its sharp claws into his left leg. Ouch. He screamed, jumping on one foot as Tora got back to Hinata's waiting arms. You little, Naruto-kun. Don't scared. The girl scolded, turning her back on him to protect the small animal and leaving the boy baffled. Why, I didn't do anything. Tora happened to choose that precise moment to purr needlessly loudly, and the blonde could swear that it had stuck its tongue out at him. That cat's out to get me. Its fat owner was already waiting when they got to the academy. Hinata gave the poor feline, even Naruto knew it'd have rough days ahead, a last hug, pressing it gently against herself and making the knucklehead she had a crush on wish he was in the cat's shoes for a second before handing it to the daimyo's wife, mouthing a sorry at its pleading eyes. Very good job. Haruka said after the woman and her pet had left, handing the children their cut of the payment. I know that you already get most of them, but if you keep that up, you might just get all of the Tora catching missions in the future. No one else can catch it so fast. The shy girl smiled hopefully at her former sensei. The two boys cursed him. Now, I've got some more missions for you. Let's see, babysitting an elder's grandson, shopping in the neighboring village, helping out with the potato digging. No. Naruto burst out, scaring the hell out of both Hinata and Sasuke. No. 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 No, thank you. I've had enough of these crappy tier ranks. I want to do, an actual mission. Find us a better one. I thought it was about time for this. Kakashi, who had just returned after mysteriously disappearing for the mission, he didn't like Tora either, thought. You idiot. You are just a rookie. Haruka replied, standing up and knocking over a few papers. The Hokage just sighed. Everyone starts off with the simple duties and works their way up. He then started a lecture on ninja ranks, ninja missions and how they worked. Before he could finish, however, the Hokage cut him short. Alright. He said, surprising the academy teacher by agreeing to the request. If you want it that much, I'll give you a C-rank mission. It's the protection of a certain individual. Naruto rubbed his hands with a greedy look, wondering who their client could be. A feudal lord. A princess. Will you please step in? The Hokage said. One of the doors to the room opened and a man entered. What's this? They're all a bunch of super brats. He commented, taking a sip of nearly empty sake bottle. Especially the shortest one with a super stupid looking face. Are you really a ninja? Hey. Naruto was annoyed by this, but he kept his mouth shut. It would be better not to screw up this mission before it even started, or he'd be put on D ranks again for another month. I'm the super expert bridge builder Tazuna. I expect you to provide me super protection until I get back to my country and complete the bridge. About half an hour later, Team 7 was at the main gate, ready to leave on their mission. All that was missing was their sensei. You're late. Naruto yelled 10 minutes later when Kakashi finally arrived. Sorry, I ran into a black cat on the way and had to take the long path around it. He replied apologetically. As if Naruto wasn't annoyed enough already, Tazuna chose that moment to intervene. Hey. Am I really going to be safe with this brat? Well, I'm a jounin, don't worry. Kakashi answered, making Naruto sweat drop. Why was his sensei so intent on making him look like a complete goofball? Anyway, we should get going. They walked silently for another few hours after Naruto almost threw some kunai at both his teacher and his client when Kakashi happened to notice an oddity in the road. I wonder if he'll notice it too. He thought, keeping his eye on the lonely puddle of water on the ground. Hey Kakashi-sensei, Hinata whispered. The genin all exchanged meaningful looks and gazed at him questioningly. It hasn't rained in D-days. Satisfied with his team's perception abilities, the jounin gave them all an eye smile. I know. Just walk past it and pretend you haven't noticed anything. We may not be their actual targets. However, this theory was proven wrong. From the corner of his eye he saw two cloaked figures with mist headbands rising from the puddle, but didn't react. He kept seemingly unsuspecting even when one of them took a long spike chain from under his clothes and launched the other one towards him. He feigned surprise as he was trapped by it and let out a loud scream as they squeezed the log he had replaced himself with, causing it to be ripped into shreds. "One down," one of the men said. The three genin, however, saw through their sensei's trick and managed to see him safely hidden in some bushes behind the enemy shinobi, ready to jump in if needed. "Alright," Naruto thought, getting his hands into the familiar ram sign as his two opponents suddenly appeared behind him. "This is my chance to prove to that old geezer that I'm the greatest ninja around. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." He produced 5 clones behind him to block the incoming attack. However, they were unnecessary as Sasuke took out a shuriken and used it to skillfully hit the chain linking the unknown ninja's metal arms, throwing it against a tree and following with a nicely launched kunai right in the hole in the middle of the ninja star, pinning it onto the trunk and keeping them from moving. Gah! The team stole my spotlight. However, they weren't defeated yet. Both used their claws to break the chain and attempted to get past the group of blondes to attack Tazuna. Gyuuten. Tatsumaki Ken. Wind style. Tornado blades, the clones yelled. The sharp blades of wind chakra hit one of the enemies right in the stomach, effectively stopping his attack. However, the second one managed to avoid the jutsu and continue towards the bridge builder, certain that the two boys could no longer interfere. He got in front of his target, raised his arm, and was stopped by a palm to the stomach coming from the girl he hadn't even bothered to consider. "Great job, Hinata-chan, you totally kicked his ass," Naruto shouted, making the girl giggle and blush as he pumped a fist into the air. The last thing the Mist Nin felt before blacking out was the taste of blood in his mouth. "Phew, we're saved," Tazuna thought with relief as Kakashi joined the group and tied the two Mist Ninja to a tree. "I've got to hand it to you kids, you're not half bad." "Just as I thought." Kakashi put the bingo book back into his pocket. "I know these shinobi," he stated, turning all attention to him. "They're the demon brothers, chunin from the hidden mist. These ninja are known to continue fighting no matter what. And, Tazuna-san, they were after you." A drop of sweat ran down the old man's forehead. "We haven't heard that there were shinobi after you. Our mission was simply to protect you from thieves and gangs. This has now become at least a B-rank mission. This was supposed to be simple protection until you completed the bridge." Tazuna hung his head in shame, but Kakashi hadn't finished his assessment of the situation yet. "If it was known that there were ninja after you, this mission would be set as the more expensive B rank. I'm sure you had a reason, but it causes problems when you lie about the mission. We are now operating outside of our duties. And it might just be too much for us to handle." The three children stayed uncharacteristically silent as their sensei pondered. "Alright sensei," Tazuna said. "I'll explain everything." It had been long since Marino Ibiki had had so much fun with an interrogation. Most of his latest clients had been too easy to crack, not giving him the chance of putting his more complex tortures into use. This one, however, was proving to be a challenge so far. He gazed once more at the shinobi strapped to the chair before him, his face bruised and bloody, his fake Anbu lion mask lying broken on the floor. He had a feeling he knew him from somewhere, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. "Speak," the special Jounin ordered. "Who exactly are you and your friends? The sooner you tell me, the sooner your pain will end. All of yours." He paused to hear muffled screams from 2 other rooms in the interrogation chambers, where Cat and Eagle were also being questioned. "Screw you," was what he got as a reply. "Wrong answer," Ibiki said, taking a scroll from a table right next to him. Before he could proceed, however, one of the other doors burst open. "Ibiki!" yelled a purple-haired woman with no pupils on her brown eyes. She was wearing a beige trench coat with a tight fishnet shirt that barely covered her breasts underneath. "Enko. I take it you've made progress with Cat." "Sort of. Take a look at this," she said, holding out a clenched fist, which she opened to reveal a small object which looked like a coin. It was made of some gray metal, probably iron or tin, and about the size of an adult's thumb. The most interesting thing about it, however, was the symbol on the center. It was the symbol of Konoha which they used to see on leaf headbands with a cross over it. "What do you think it means?" "This is very interesting. Where did you find it?" Ibiki asked, taking the object and examining the other side, which was the same as the one he'd seen. It was stuck to Cat's forehead with some sort of sealing jutsu hidden beneath the mask. "I managed to take it off using one of the basic seal breaker tags," Anko told her superior, looking at him for some kind of explanation. All Ibiki did was turn back to the beaten shinobi on the chair and rip his Hittite off. Just as he'd expected, he found the same object on his forehead. "Unfortunately, I don't know what this means yet. But I will find out. Report this to Hokage-sama. I'll be here, working on this one." Anko nodded and left immediately, leaving the head interrogator and his victim alone again. Looks like you've got some more explaining to do now. The former said matter-of-factly. What's the meaning of all this? Lion spat some blood onto Ibiki's perfectly polished shoes. Go to hell. He answered. Ibiki could only smile. Again, wrong answer. Let's see how you like this. He went back to the scroll and unsealed a hammer, 4 nails, 2 20-inch needles and a strange vial full of some green liquid. This is going to be fun. For me, that is. Meanwhile, Team 7 and Tazuna were being transported through a misty river in a canoe. The wave country is at the base of the bridge. Tazuna said. We should be seeing it soon. Sure enough, the bridge came into view moments later. Wow, it's huge, Naruto whispered. We'll be there soon. The guide informed them. Tazuna, it looks like we've avoided detection so far, but just in case, we'll take the route that has vegetation. It will make it harder for them to spot us. Tazuna thanked the man as the canoe went through a tunnel. They stopped a few minutes later, next to a wooden shack. This is it for me. Goodbye and good luck. Yeah. The bridge builder replied. Super thanks. Alright, now get me home safely. How did I let myself get dragged into this? Kakashi thought. If we get attacked again it will surely not be a chunin, but Jounin level however, he had been proud of his students when they defeated 2 chunin in a matter of seconds, they were certainly much more skilled than your regular genin. He was pulled away from his thoughts as Naruto shouted there. And threw a kunai at a bush that had just moved. Out and onto Hinata's arms jumped a small white rabbit, scared to near death. The 3 genin were immediately on guard, confusing Tazuna. Care to explain, Naruto? The masked ninja said. This snow rabbit's white, yet it's spring. The blonde said, as if that would wrap it up. So? What about it? Tazuna asked, baffled. A snow rabbit changes color based on the amount of sunlight. Naruto patiently explained. White is its color during the winter. This is a rabbit that's been kept in a cage for the purpose of body switching. Tazuna seemed about to ask something else, but before he got the chance to, Kakashi put a hand on his head and forced it down. Everyone, get down. He ordered. A huge sword suddenly came flying out of nowhere, passing over the ninjas' heads and embedding itself into a tree, shortly followed by a tall man jumping onto its handle. His back was turned to the leaf shinobi, but they were able to see his face. Everything up to the eyes was covered in bandages. He had small threatening black eyes, a mist headband wrapped around his forehead and spiky black hair. Well, if it isn't the hidden mist's missing nin, Momochi's Zabuza-kun. Kakashi said casually, as if greeting an old friend. He then turned to his students. Everyone, step back. This one's on a whole other level. Against him it will be a little tough unless I do this. He took a hand to his hit IT. You appear to be Sharingan no Kakashi. The rogue nin finally spoke. Sorry but the old man is mine. Sharingan. Sasuke looked at his sensei suspiciously. Surround and protect Azuna-san. He instructed. Do not enter the fight. That's the teamwork here. Zabuza, first he slowly pulled the headband up, revealing a blood-red eye with 3 tomo around it and a big white scar crossing it. Fight me. Ah. I'm honored. Zabuza said. I already get to see the famous Sharingan. When I was a member of the Hidden Mists Assassination Squad, I kept a handbook which included information on you. It said you have copied over 1,000 jutsu. And Naruto-kun, you don't seem surprised, Hinata stated. Did you know about this? Of course. The blonde answered. I studied famous ninja of the leaf during my absence. That's why they call him Sharingan no Kakashi, the copy nin of the leaf. Now let's end all of the talking. Zabuza cut in. I have to kill the old man. But it seems that I have to beat you first, Kakashi. Using the tree as support he jumped away with incredible speed, taking his sword with him and reappearing on top of the water, each of his hands forming a seal. Ninpu. Kurigaku no Jutsu. Ninja art. Hidden mist technique, then he was gone again and the mist started getting thicker. As the genin got ready for the worst, Zabuza's voice echoed through the area. 8 choices: liver, lungs, spine, clavicle vein, jugular, brain, kidneys, heart. Which one should I go after? After a couple of minutes of silence, Hinata broke it, yelling Sensei, behind you. Right in time for Kakashi to dodge the massive sword, which then vanished into the mist just as it had appeared from it. The Byakugan, Kakashi thought, looking at the veins around the Hyuga's eyes. Apparently, it can see through the mist. This will come in very useful. This time, Hinata didn't need to warn him. He felt a presence behind him and was able to create a water clone to be sliced in half instead of him. Don't move. He ordered from behind Zabuza, with a kunai to his neck. It's over. The missing nin, however, laughed and appeared behind Kakashi again. I'm not that easy. Again, Zabuza slashed, much faster than he should have been able to, considering the sword's size, but the masked nin ducked and avoided the blow. Making use of the momentum, the former Miss Ninja stuck his sword on the ground and used it as support to deliver a powerful roundhouse kick to his opponent's chest and launch him towards the water. He then used a shunshin to quickly move behind the still recovering copy nin. Fool. Suiton. Suru no jutsu. Water style. Water prison technique. Crap. Kakashi thought. He had no time to react as the water around him rose and enveloped him in a sphere, trapping and slowly drowning him. What made it worse was the fact that the genin had gone back into fighting stances instead of running away. "You idiots." He shouted. "Run away. Zabuza's way out of your league, you have no chance of winning against him." "I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei, but we can't." Naruto replied. "Remember what you told us. In the ninja world, those who break the rules are trash." Sasuke followed. "But those who abandon their sea comrades are worse than trash." Hinata finished. At that moment, Kakashi couldn't help but to feel proud of his students, but that didn't last long. Pride wouldn't do them much if they ended up dead. Zabuza chuckled, amused by the foolishness of the genin who didn't even know who he was. Without giving the genin any time to react, he created a water clone that immediately charged against Sasuke. In a few seconds, he had him coughing blood under his foot. "Damn it." Naruto thought, forming the ram seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He created over 20 clones with confident smirks and had 2 of them rescue Sasuke while the rest jumped onto Zabuza. "No one messes with my team and gets away with it. You can't seriously think you can defeat me by outnumbering me, brat." The ex-Miss Shinobi dropped his sword and cracked his knuckles. "I won't even need the Kubikiri Haucho for this." At that moment he was engulfed in a wave of clones which completely covered him in orange jumpsuits and blonde hair, delivering blows with deafening cries. For a moment, it seemed like they were actually winning, but all of a sudden their opponent broke free with enormous strength, sending all the Bunshin flying. As they started hitting the ground and dispelling, one of them reached into his backpack. "Hatch this, Sasuke." He took out something black and threw it to his teammate before anyone had the chance to figure out what it was. Sasuke caught it with ease and showed it to everyone as he spoke. "Demon Wind Shuriken Windmill of Shadows." He stated before launching it against the water clone. "That won't work either." The real Zabuza informed them, but his eyes widened with surprise as the weapon turned in midair, going around his Bunshin and towards him. "So he was aiming for the real me all along, That's still not good enough, kid." He reached out with his unoccupied hand and grabbed the ninja star before it could harm him. Only then did he notice another one flying at him with deadly speed. Kage Shuriken. Shadow Shuriken, a second one hidden in the shadow of the first ha. "Don't make me laugh." He mocked as he jumped over the projectile. As he thought he had avoided their attack, however, he heard a poof behind him and turned his head just in time to see Hinata instead of the shuriken, with a kunai in each hand. The girl. But how just then, the Hinata next to Sasuke transformed into Naruto as the real girl behind him threw her weapons. Zabuza had only one option. He twisted his left arm behind his back in a strange angle and used the Fuuma shuriken he was still holding to deflect the kunai that would have sunk into his flesh otherwise. But the genin weren't finished yet and he caught sight of Sasuke moving his hands as if controlling an invisible puppet. "He's got wires connected to his fingers. But what for?" He looked at Hinata again and saw the glint of the wires strapped to her arms and legs as she was pulled towards him by the Uchiha, ready to strike. He ducked, his left arm still behind his back. He could feel his body complain, but he'd been worse off if he'd stayed still. At least it had worked. The girl had only managed to brush his shoulder. "Pain. Housenkan no Jutsu. Fire style. Phoenix Flower Jutsu," Sasuke yelled. "What? Would he really harm his teammate just to get a shot at me?" Zabuza thought as the dark-haired boy started spewing a multitude of fireballs at him, dispelling his distracted clone on the way. When he stood up straight, however, he saw no girl, only a blonde knucklehead, doubtlessly a clone, smirking at him. "Kawarimi." He quickly let go of the Fuuma shuriken and got his arm back to normal, ignoring the nasty cracking sounds it made as it did so, to do a series of hand seals. "Suiton. Tsuryu Water style. Water release wall." The water before him rose to form a protective wall, extinguishing the fireballs upon contact. Just when he thought it had ended, a few wind chakra enhanced kunai crossed the barrier as if it wasn't even there. They had small red tags attached to them. Explosive tags. "There's no way I can destroy or avoid them all with a single arm, damn it," he thought as he was forced to let go of the water prison, releasing Kakashi to jump back. "Alright. Take that." Naruto shouted. The Team 7 Shadow Shuriken Destruction combo. "What's with that obsession to name every move you come up with, loser?" As if Zabuza wasn't angry enough by then, he got even angrier when he realized he'd been tricked. The tags hadn't gone off, the kids hadn't wanted to risk harming Kakashi. Plus, his right arm was slowly getting numb, probably due to the girl's light tap on his shoulder. Just because of that, he'd take care of her first. He picked up his sword and appeared behind the group with a simple shunshin, charging at the unaware Hyuga. He swung his huge weapon at her with the intent of beheading her, but he suddenly lost what little control he still had over the arm holding the Kubikiri Haucho. His grip on the handle loosened and the sword spun in his hand, causing him to hit the girl in the chest with the side of the weapon instead of cutting her head off, even if still with tremendous power. That caused her to let out a scream of pain and fly against a tree before falling to the ground, barely conscious. "Hinata-chan." Naruto yelled, terrified, as he rushed towards her. "Oh, did I hurt your little girlfriend, Gaki? I'll just finish her off really fast so you don't have to worry. Then you can join her." Zabuza mocked. "You bastard. I'm going to." "You're not going to do anything, Naruto." Kakashi interrupted. "You did enough. I'll take it from here." Kakashi and Zabuza then jumped away from the rest of Team 7 and started going through a complex series of hand seals simultaneously. But Hinata's vision seemed to be getting blurry and two rising water dragons striking at each other was the last thing she was able to see before it all went black. Everything around her was blurry, but she could still make out an unmistakable orange figure sitting next to her. She blinked a couple of times to clear her vision. Sure enough, there was Naruto with his back turned to her. Had he stayed like that the whole time she'd been unconscious, silently watching over her like an older brother, or better yet, a boyfriend, would. Blushing at the thought, she tried to stand up, but the moment she attempted to use her feet, a burning wave of pain ran through her lower body and her legs failed, causing her to fall on her butt and one elbow and whimper, drawing Naruto's attention. "Hinata-chan, you're awake," he said. "You shouldn't try to stand up on your own, you took a nasty hit to your hips. Kakashi-sensei said that nothing's broken, but you should still use these for a while, as a precaution." He informed her, handing her a pair of crutches. "After you got knocked out, he got involved in a jutsu battle with Zabuza, and it was so awesome. There were these gigantic water dragons, and then Kakashi-sensei did this giant vortex thingy and how long was I out?" Hinata asked, taking a couple of hesitant steps to try out her new crutches. Naruto didn't seem upset at being interrupted. "Since yesterday, maybe about 15 hours. It's 10 in the morning now. Kakashi-sensei has been awake for a while now and he says he wants to see the team. You should change, I'll wait outside." He headed for the door but suddenly stopped and turned around. Do you need help?" Hinata turned red in the blink of an eye, but he only realized the implications of what he'd said a few seconds later and promptly added, even if maybe a little too late. "I could call Tsunami-san. I think I can do it on my own and then Naruto-kun." Yeah, of course, what was I thinking?" He quickly rushed out of the room, blushing a little himself. "I have to admit that you're a tough one," Ibiki said, putting his beloved 20-inch needles away. "But I'm tougher. And I've got all the time in the world." His captive looked up at him questioningly. "Just think about it, in a few hours it'll be night and me and the other interrogators will go home for some well-deserved rest. Not you and your friends, though. You'll most likely be unable to sleep because of the pain. Then, early in the morning, a medic nin will come over to see you. We don't want you dying too soon, now, do we? After that, we'll start all over again, as many times as it takes until one of you breaks." Lion audibly gulped but kept a defiant face. "I'll never talk." "Fine. You seem to be the leader of the group. Let's see how you like watching your subordinate suffer." "Kishaku," Ibiki called, clapping twice. At once another man entered the room, carrying a barely conscious eagle on his shoulder and dropping him onto a chair next to his leader. Kishaku then proceeded to take a crimson scroll from the depths of his long black cloak and unseal its contents. About 2 dozens of snowy white senbon on a metal pedestal. These senbon were especially made to endure extremely high temperatures without melting or taking any damage at all. He explained. As if to exemplify, he performed a quick-fire jutsu and spat fire onto the ninja needles for more than 2 minutes. This should do. He then coated his hands with chakra to protect them and grabbed one of the senbon, which were now red from the heat. Kishaku knows the human body better than anyone in torture and interrogation. Ibiki stated casually as said man pulled back Eagle's sleeve, exposing his arm. He knows exactly which nerves to hit to cause the most pain. To show it was true, Kishaku struck a nerve right above the other ninja's wrist, making him let out a horrid scream that froze Lion's blood in his veins. And right now Ibiki continued as another nerve was hit, this time a couple of inches above the elbow. Eagle cried even louder than before. He's starting with the ones that hurt the less. "Please. Make it stop." The tortured shinobi pleaded, making Lion go deaf for a second. Kishaku got another needle ready, searching for the right spot to insert it, this time around the neck. Eagle was livid with horror. At least his uncontrolled shivering was making it harder for his interrogator to proceed. "Alright, that's enough. Stop." The rogue shinobi leader yelled, shooting his companion a doubtful look, to which he responded with a feeble nod. "I'll tell you everything." "Very well. Shinsu," Ibiki called out. The kunoichi sent to replace Anko entered the room, dragging the last of the trio of criminals, Kat, who appeared to have just lost consciousness. "I think I overdid it." she said. It doesn't matter. Lion here is willing to cooperate. The head interrogator signaled for her to drop cat and approach. As for you, he said, turning to Lion. We expect you to tell us everything about you and your pals, as well as those strange tokens and the reason you attacked Uzumaki Naruto, a loyal ninja of the leaf. And remember, Shinsu made a few hand seals and whispered Ninpu. Tamashi wo Hanketsu. Ninja art. Judgment of the soul, thin wires erupted from the tips of her fingers and dug into Lion's skin, making him wince slightly in pain. I have connection. We'll know if you lie. End of chapter 5. What if Hiruzen makes Naruto Hokage Chunin exams? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.